All right, welcome back to the party, everybody. This is Morty, and I am your host, Lutch, aka the Indian Jesus, here to resurrect the second coming of common sense. Everybody hit that like and subscribe. You know how we do it for you, and let's party. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the party. Big shout out to the moderator of the stars, Nick Blue Kitty, and we also got our boy King Nirvana, another great mind here. So Erudite is a handsome woman. Indeed, she is. Indeed. And so you may or may not have seen that she was on the Culture War today. And, you know, on Fridays, I'm always excited to see, oh, Morty's coming to join us. I'm always excited to see what's going on, with the Culture War podcast. We cover it pretty often, but it kind of does exactly what we want it to do. Bring people together of different opinions and have them discuss stuffs. And so this one is more about men leaving the left, but also just is an indictment of liberal policy in general. If you're not familiar with NotSoErudite, she is a destiny orbiter. So that's going to give you a little clue into what we've got. So let's dive right in. As always, guys, if you can end the video, please do let me know. So I skipped a little bit at the beginning, and basically she was just saying, well, I think the men left the left because of this, that, and that. And, a lot of talking down to men, stuff that we've heard before. And so I just skipped that part. You could imagine if Tim and a liberal woman are going to agree on why men are leaving the left, then you've heard it before. So let's dive in.
Which is a liberal democracy.
Republicanism.
Mm-hmm. We want something that is more like essentially what we have now, which is a liberal democracy.
Republicanism.
Various
jurisdictions who send an elected representative to go and represent the interests of the area.
Sure. The issue is that, like, we just do have a democracy. Like, we're fundamentally, if in every way we're functioning as a democracy, we're acting as a democracy, we're voting, then, like, at some point we have to call the duck a duck. Like, it feels like
Congress does not enact policy based on the will of the people. That's a fact. It's usually the will of the wealthy and the elite, which is what the founding fathers intended, which is why the 17th Amendment got ratified in the early 1900s, because the original idea of how senators were sent to Congress at the federal level was that your state reps would choose to represent the state. So you would vote for a state rep who would then, in their own council, say, we want our state senator to be that guy over there, and no one had a say in it. So in the early 1900s, they were like, hey, the problem is they're sending cronies, so we're going to change this. I don't actually agree. I think they did it because it allowed the subversion of state choice, state authority. But the general idea among the founding fathers was that we needed, quote, better men to decide for the public, not
better men.
Right. This is why you have the Electoral College in the first place. This is why I tell people vote in your primaries. But this is a democracy, right? Just because you vote for an elected and then that elected gets to make decisions on your behalf, this is still fundamentally, in every way, democracy, right? The function.
Sure, it's just not a direct democracy that one person gets one vote on one thing and everything like that.
Shouldn't have a democracy.
Which is not what I think she's saying, but that's what I think Tim is saying.
Is that the will of the people transfer their authority and their power to an elect who then speaks for them. And we can talk about whether or not the people who speak for them do a good enough job. You and I would probably agree a lot, because I'm very critical of it.
Do you think in the past 100 years, the U.S. government has actually enacted policies at the will of the American people?
By and large, yes.
I think the data shows us that the answer is no, they don't. There was the plutonomy article from Citibank 14 years ago, where Citibank drafted this internal paper to be shared with a bunch of financial interests saying the United States is not a democracy. It is a plutonomy where the wealthy control the political class and the political class enacts the interests of the wealthy elite. I think that's actually fascinating, because I
think we'd have to get into specifics to actually say, like, are they more often enacting the will of the people or not? Because there's a lot of, BS that comes down the line, but there is a lot of people who just vote badly. And so the things that we complain about, it's not the problem of the system that people voted in that way.
Would assume the left position is largely that, politicians don't represent our interests. They represent the lobbyists, the corporations.
It's because you were mixing me up with, like, far left people.
I'm not mixing you up. I'm saying it's interesting that you would assert that when the left, liberal, Occupy Wall Street, the moderate, largely view corporations as unduly influencing our political system.
I think most people would agree.
Shout out to Guam Tech. Welcome to the party. Where's that applause? You gotta get the applause. Happy Friday to you. Welcome to the party. It's more like a representative democracy, but it is a constitutional republic. Yes, sir.
The moderate largely view corporations as unduly influencing our political system.
I think most people would agree, though. Like, the issue is that this is my issue with leftists too. Just because there is corruption, it doesn't mean that the like that democracy isn't occurring necessarily. We can definitely say corruption is happening and there's something that needs to be done about it. But essentially, my question would be, what's the alternative? Do you want America not to be a democracy?
Well, I guess the issue is how you define the phrase democracy, right?
Do you want to take away people's right to vote?
Again, all people everywhere all the time. Do we want to put certain restrictions on voting? Do we want to open up voting to
I'm asking you. I genuinely, I don't know your position.
Right. So when you say, do you want to take away people's right to vote? What's going to happen is there's going to be a semantic manipulation on the left where they say people means everyone. And then what you'll get on the right.
Do we want to take away people's right to vote? Well, which people?
Something like they'll reference Starship Troopers, service guarantees citizenship.
Yeah,
right. Where it's like when you allow people who are not citizens to vote, which some jurisdictions are doing, like in California, New York, they're trying, you are going to get a representation of non-citizens. And what are the non-citizens going to vote for? They're going to vote for their families back home. Why wouldn't they? I expect them to vote for their families, right?
Sure.
Yep. False. Tim Pool claims the rich run the government, not the people. The rich are, in fact, part of the people. Yep.
And I would agree that there should be like some limit on who gets to vote, right? This is why I think citizenship is a really good standard by which who gets to vote, right? There's also even a good...
Wait, so Nick says, I don't want people to have the right to change the Constitution. Why not? That's what amendments are. Amendments are changing the Constitution, maybe adding on to, but, you know, again, a semantic thing there. I don't think it should be easy to change the Constitution, but I think the Founding Fathers intended it for it to be, you know, a living document that is updated and changed.
Who gets to vote, right? This is why I think citizenship is a really good standard by which who gets to vote, right? There's also even a good question like, should expats get to vote? If you haven't been in the country for 30 years, even though you're still a citizen, what's your like...
You pay taxes.
You pay taxes, yeah. Americans do, expat Americans do. Canadian, should I be voting as a Canadian if I haven't been in my country for like 20 years? Because we don't have to pay taxes to Canada.
Who cares? It's Canada.
I don't know the answer to this, right? So I'm willing to grant that there should be limitations to who votes. My question to you is still, essentially, are you opposed to America being a democracy?
Again, it depends on what you mean by democracy.
So I would say no, depending on what you mean by democracy.
A transfer of the people of power to an elected official who then does their will.
I love it.
Okay.
Yeah.
What do you want it to look like?
Not like it looks now, to be completely honest.
That's fine, but what do you want it to look like?
Yeah, like a person goes for the people, has a conversation over what the representative bloc wants to see happen in their various political structures, be it at the state level, local, city, or otherwise.
Sure.
Those individuals go and then enact the will of their voter base and to the best interest they possibly could.
Without the pit stop at the NGOs and the lobbyists and all that stuff. Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, yeah, there is a third person on this episode.
And not having luxury steak dinners or being...
Is anyone familiar with that guy, AmericanNachos? Never heard of him. Not really a big factor in this conversation, but he's there.
Flown in private jets or going on boats and all that stuff.
Sure. Okay. So we should get money out of politics, like by and large. Okay. So I would totally agree with you. Like carry committees are the worst thing ever that happened. And the problem is that now we have a Moloch's game, right? This is the big issue with politics is that when, and this is my biggest criticism of the carry committee, is that essentially just to make sure everyone is aware of like what a carry committee is and stuff like that.
Not aware.
Okay, just want to make sure. And it's fine. You don't need to know esoteric words. It's not a gotcha. So a carry committee is essentially what we call like a super PAC. It's usually going to be a combination of, sometimes it'll be a nonprofit or a charity, a C4 and a C3. And sometimes there'll be some other little fun things thrown in there, but that's essentially what it is. And it essentially, this combination of things allows infinite donations, some of them, most of them, which can be hidden into who does it because they would be a C3, right? Which means that they're bipartisan. And then they usually are not bipartisan. And this is true on both sides, just so it's clear. Both sides are doing this. So
that's where all the big money has come from. When they're talking about the billionaires and the lobbyists, it's going to be in that realm.
Committees get introduced. And the problem now is that if you want to run for federal office ever, good luck without a carry committee. You must participate in the evil thing that you despise, because if you don't, you will be limited in how much money you can raise. And the reality is that money does make elections work.
Hence, the establishment.
Which is gross, but how are you going to get your ads out? How are you going to pay for your tour? How are you going to pay for your staffers? How are you going to pay for your flyers, right? So money has to be infused to some degree in a democracy.
There's no way not to do it.
Exactly. And so then this issue goes, okay, well, if everyone, even if they want to play the game, even if we've got Jesus, okay, Jesus comes down and he's going to become a politician, which I would argue he would never do, but say he does.
I'd vote for him.
Jesus, me too.
I'd vote for Jesus.
Yeah, me too. I'd rather fuck for Jesus, okay? The question is, Jesus also will have to have a carry committee. This is the Moloch's game, where essentially once the bad thing is in play, if you don't participate, you don't get to play at all. And so now we have this issue where we already have a bad thing in this case, just the carry committee, and both sides have to participate. And the issue is now there's no incentive to get rid of it because nobody's going to canvass and like promote themselves on saying I'm anti-carry committee, because if they do, they will get no funding.
Okay, I hadn't Malik's game, I think she called it. I hadn't heard about that before. But where there's already a bad thing in some type of system, there's already a bad thing, and if you don't play into the bad thing, then you don't have enough power within that system to even change the bad thing in the first place.
Isn't this kind of part of the problem though? Like, if
yes, that's what she just said.
We're trying to figure out why men are leaving the left. You know, we're not able to have a conversation like this with most people on the left, to be honest. You know, the people that, and currently there's no evidence that shows that the Democratic Party is interested in having people like that represent them. The people that they're supporting, the Parkers, the Harry Sissons, the Deans, all that stuff. And then this.
And so, like, I mean, she might actually say this while I'm here right now, but she also spends a lot of this talking about how she's not one of them. She's, you know, a moderate liberal, which, you know, fair enough. But that kind of proves the point that the only time we get into these left-right debates, at least on this show, is because of the fact that it's a more moderate or more a centrist person. Shout out to Cassandra. Welcome to the party. Doing well. How are you? Welcome to the party. Guys, don't forget to hit that like button if you would please. It helps out the channel so very, very much.
Just recently, they put up that lady Olivia Giuliani or whatever that was going around on X. There's no evidence that they're even willing to concede on any of their positions.
Let me tell you. So we did a live event for the show, and we're planning a.
Well, they can't, because they've established their positions as morally correct, as opposed to just, you know, what it is that I think. So if they change their positions, then they're changing it away from the morally correct position. They've set it up that way. They've cornered themselves.
You concede on any of their positions.
Let me tell you. So we did a live event for the show, and we're planning a series of live shows. That was our pilot. We're trying to figure out how it works. I can tweet who wants to come and debate on the culture war, and on the right, you'll get 500,000 responses. I'll get a text from Charlie Kirk saying, I'd love to find some dates that work. On the left, they say, contact my agent and we'll give you our rates. Then if a few people, I'll give credit to the Krasensteins, as much as, you know, there's contention between our opinions.
They're fun to me.
Absolutely. But I respect that they've come on the show. They've said, let us know when you have dates. We'd love to be a part of the conversation. And I very few people want to do these things. And so
I think shout out to the Krasensteins for this reason, because I do think they are probably the only people within that realm that, like, what's her name? Erudite. She would be like, oh yeah, they're too left for me. But those people actually getting on these shows and having these conversations.
That makes it impossible. I think the reason why is the fear that if you defy the orthodoxy, you'll be excommunicated.
Yep, they're right. Dean is fully audience captured. I mean, his friend Harry Sisson
canceled on us.
It's crazy.
I'm sure he did, right?
Oh, Dean was gonna be on the culture war. Oh, Dean was the guy that was arguing against Jordan Peterson in the Jubilee video. The guy that Parker. I don't know. One of those, the white dudes for Harris guy.
Yeah, he got scared.
They all do, though. That's what I was gonna bring up too in regard to all of them. It's like I think a big problem too is that this new TikTok culture, like you're saying, has them audience captured. And what is the audience on TikTok? TikTok is largely designed for women.
It's got to be left leaning.
It's a lot of female users, more than like any other app, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, anytime I defend feminism, I do well. Anytime I defend men, not so good.
Well, I think that might be more so the algorithm than anything else. But shout out to Abe Dinkus in the building. Welcome to the party. Somebody knows of NotSoErudite. Well, I think you're going to enjoy this one. Welcome to the party, guys. Again, if you've not hit that like button, please do so. It is free and it helps out so much.
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, anytime I defend feminism, I do well. Anytime I defend men, not so good.
These platforms are shaping TikTok these young influencers, and then they're terrified to go anywhere without their mute button.
Sure, but there's like TikTok is a hell of a problem to get into, right? Because you got to talk about like China and all these other like blah 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 blah.
which is why we need to sell it to an American company so that it's in our country.
Or go out.
This goes back to my timeline, right? Which is essentially for me to say, do I think the left fucked up by letting the progressives win the culture war? Yes, I think they did, because I don't think the progressives actually represent most people. And now, unfortunately, they've convinced a bunch of young, stupid kids that they do. And so a bunch of kids put like a black box in their Instagram to pretend that they care about black people, but they still find like the unk biking down the highway with like loud music annoying and stuff like that, right? Like in
I mean, is that racist for loud music to be annoying? Essentially, direct democracy is a rule of the mob. And yeah, so that's why I think it would. Tim seemed a little bit defensive there, because what Erudite she wasn't saying direct democracy. She was just saying that in effect, by us each having a vote to then hand off power or authority to our representatives, that is democracy. And so that I think that's what Tim was arguing against, but she never said that.
Like the unk biking down the highway with like loud music annoying and stuff like that, right? Like in all ways, there's this performance that I think has ransacked the left in a way that I think is repugnant. The issue is that the real question is, why be left? And the reason that I'm left is because when I go all the way back and I look at the systems that I believe in, I fundamentally keep falling left.
Okay, what are those systems? Because everything that was a system or a trend or an issue of the left seems to have moved over to the right, except for the trans and gay stuff. Shout out to Armas. Welcome to the party. Shout out from Mexico. Welcome. Said she is a sociopath. Oh my goodness. I'm not super familiar with her, but I have seen her and in different spots here and there, and she seems to be well spoken. And for a liberal woman, I mean, you could do much worse. Welcome to the party. Yeah, right. That she fundamentally believes in slavery. She's trying to bring it back.
Look at the systems that I believe in. I fundamentally keep falling left. I just fundamentally do. And so then the only question is, I guess I have to fight for what I believe in within the group, right?
My opinion is that.
See, I would have loved to dig into like, okay, what are those things? What is it that you see? What foundations are you referring to?
The most logical, rational place for you to be would be voting for Donald Trump. And you're choosing not to, and you're just coming up with reasons why it can sound like you're still part of that tribe.
Nope, because I don't believe in what I think Trump advocates for. Like I fundamentally.
What you think Trump advocates for? Why do you think that what Trump advocates for is something that you don't like and is not? I almost had it. Maybe it's that the things you think Trump is advocating for is not actually the things that Trump is advocating for.
That tribe.
Nope, because I don't believe in what I think Trump advocates for. Like I fundamentally think that Trump doesn't reflect my values.
So you have in the Trump coalition, RFK.
Again, she didn't say he doesn't represent my values. She said, I think. And maybe that's just a womanly thing. Maybe that's just a way that she talks and it's just like a filler word. I say, all the time. And I wouldn't put too much stock into that. But words matter.
I mentally think that Trump doesn't reflect my values.
Why would you say fundamentally Trump does not represent my values?
So you have in the Trump coalition, RFK Jr., which is a predominantly left health worldview that was dominant for decades. That is
exactly.
People criticize him on vaccine stuff, but he's been pro-vaccine the whole time, even recommending the MMR vaccine. And no artificial food dyes. The health,
aren't they all?
Health craze was a left culture war my whole life until these past several years.
Yep.
The right started picking up these things because the left had abandoned it and started siding with weird corporate interests on foodstuffs.
Yeah, partisan hacks are bad.
Tulsi Gabbard is anti-military industrial complex, anti-interventionist, and anti-regime change, which has been a position of the left my whole life. And so I look at Donald Trump and he says, we want a border barrier. That was Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders' position, even up to 2016. And so looking at what Donald Trump is offering, he's moderate on abortion to the chagrin of conservatives. He's got left coded anti-war, which is not left anymore. I don't know. Now they're pro-war, I guess, pro-war with Ukraine. Donald Trump may be moderate right-leaning on a lot of issues, and he's built a moderate left-leaning coalition that satisfies a lot of my liberal policy views. So it makes literally no sense, in my opinion, then, for someone to be like, to defend the Constitution, we're going to support the Democrats. And I'm like, Yeah, they arrested Trump's lawyers. That's unconstitutional. That's like an egregious violation of institutions and norms in this country.
Now, that on its own is not a reason to be like, okay, I'm not going with this party. But, you know, that's a good place to start the list. Guys, don't forget, we do have a running poll right now that will become directly relevant to what we are talking about. Does having bigger breasts equal being more feminine? Are those the same thing? Yes or no?
And they did it in numerous states. They falsely accused Trump of several crimes. They violated statute of limitations. Now you've got Letitia James falsely accusing Trump of mortgage fraud for paperwork he didn't even handle. And what I view as the divide between left and right, once again, going back to why young men are leaving, on this, what I was saying to Bill Maher, you are left or right, not based on your policy views. You are left or right based on what you believe to be true.
Reality.
And Bill agreed, despite the fact that we believe different things. So, for instance,
So then you must both be on the right.
said, yeah, Trump wasn't a Russian agent, but he was certainly working with the Russians, and he lied. And when I brought up the Ukraine scandal, he didn't know about it. He did not know that in 2017, Politico reported at the same time as they were accusing Trump of colluding with Russia, Ukraine and the Democrats were literally colluding to assist Hillary Clinton to win, and it backfired. And it
Put a one in the chat if you did not already watch this Culture War episode.
caused problems. We had Hunter Avalone on Timcast IRL. And when I pointed out that Joe Biden said, quote, if you don't fire the prosecutor, you're not getting $1 billion.
Getting $1
He immediately
billion.
smirked and said, it never happened. And I played the video for him. And he was like, "Duh, no idea that it happened. So
Shout out to Waco Mind. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the party. So they're all bad guys. Trump is a mascot. Technocrats are evil. The USA has been corrupt since its inception. It sits on stolen land. There's no left or right. All voters are hostage guards. Interesting take. Interesting take. I don't know if I would completely agree, but, you know, definitely with the fact that they're all bad guys and that Trump is a mascot, technocrats definitely are evil. Yeah, that's a big thing that, you know, when it comes to casting a vote for him, it's like we're not saying he's a good guy. We just think he's going to be a better leader. And, you know, people may agree or disagree, but that's the long and short of it for many of us. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the party. All right, so we got a few people who haven't seen it. If we get down to the wire, there is a like 20-minute rant that Tim goes on after being challenged, and we have to see it. So if we hit the 2-hour mark and we haven't gotten there, remind me of that. We will skip ahead. Welcome to the party, guys. Please hit that like and let's dive right back in.
and said it never happened. And I played the video for him. And he was like, "Duh, no idea that it happened." So what I typically run into is liberals tend not to know what's going on in the world. And probably the reason why they're scared to do shows is because they default to, I didn't know that. And so we've even offered up certain friendly liberal personalities. I'll leave their name out of it because I'm not going to try and drag them, who, you know, dirtbag leftist types. They're anti-woke, but they're leftist politically.
I'm going to guess it's Kyle Kulinski. I don't even know what he's going to say yet, but just that.
They cancel us all the time because they know they're going to sit down and they're going to end up sounding like Alex Jones. I'm going to pull up an article from the New York Times that says a Ukraine court ruled that they illegally interfered in the U.S. election to aid the Democrats. And they're going to have to reconcile with that and say, yes, that happened. But then when they go back to their Democrat circles, they're going to say, how dare you make that claim?
Well, I was actually like a Yang Gang kind of guy leading up to like the 2020 election, and something.
There was a while where I was flirting with, like, you know, we have had this conversation recently about, you know, AI eventually is going to take over, the jobs. And at that point, then a UBI makes sense. Now, in 2020, I didn't know what I didn't know. And I thought that maybe it was a little bit sooner than I thought. I was also more broke and naive. So all that money he was giving away sounded nice. But yeah, a lot of MAGA is people who were for Bernie, for Tulsi, for Yang Gang. It's not all these, you know, far right, lifelong Republican people.
Actually like a Yang Gang kind of guy leading up to like the 2020 election. And something that turned me back towards Trump was just like you're saying. I started seeing all these articles. A couple of them I think you covered on your show. Remember the one about there's a video of Trump. There may or may not be a video of Trump in an elevator.
That one, dude.
It's like the most bizarre headline I've ever heard. It's a great one. Then another one was of course the one you just went over with Adam Conover. That clip was going everywhere.
Look at this.
There were great people on both sides.
Come on. Huffington Post. A tape might exist of Trump doing something in an elevator, though exactly where that somewhere is and what that something might be, no one in media can say. That's because no one in media seems to have seen the tape or is even confident it exists.
Like, bruh, you're supposed to be a news agency. I didn't actually see this tweet at the time, but the Huffington Post, a tape might exist of Trump doing something in an elevator, though exactly where that somewhere is and what that something might be, no one in media can say. That's because no one in media seems to have seen the tape or is even confident it exists. So maybe there's something somewhere about something. Brilliant.
Yo, Huffington Post literally wrote an article about Trump may or may not have done something that may have been recorded. We don't know if it was recorded. We don't know what it is.
Yep.
Fair and fearless reporting.
Yep. And then another my top three. Those are my three favorite ones. That one, they were good people on both sides, and then the Trump puts ketchup on his steak.
Right.
And that one hit home for me because I grew up like dirt poor. There's 8 kids in my family.
Let's try this one.
I put ketchup on my steak because we were eating cheap steak.
I'm actually gonna make the bet you'll get it right. Did Donald Trump call white supremacists fine people?
I don't think so.
What did he say?
I can't remember. I just my assumption is that it's clickbaited because most things about Trump are.
Joe Biden.
Reasonable thing to say when you don't know and somebody like if spin it around, be like, would you believe that Joe Biden did this thing that is associated with dementia that's really, really bad? It's like, if you're not sure, then, the most honest answer is be like, probably not. But based on the way that you're asking it, I would guess no.
Launched his 2020 campaign claiming that Donald Trump called white supremacists fine people, which he never did. It's fake. And
what was the actual content? I don't know.
During Charlottesville, Trump said,
okay, so like fair enough that you're like, okay, I'm not really sure about this. How is it that you're not sure of this? This was such a big story that's come up over and over and over and over and over again. But I'm like, why? She was willing to say it was probably a rage bait or whatever. So she's guarding and playing it safe in this interview. I guess. Has she? That's what I'm gonna say. There's no way that you're in political talk and you don't know about this story. Okay, fine. If you don't remember exactly what was said, that's one thing. Look, I'm not sure what we're talking about.
And video.
What was the actual content? I don't know.
During Charlottesville, Trump said, I've seen the videos and there were very fine people on both sides. And I am not talking about the white nationalists and neo-Nazis because they should be condemned totally.
Gotcha.
And the entirety of the Democrat-aligned media apparatus cut off the back half of the quote and showed Trump saying, very fine people on both sides, clip, and then showing white nationalists marching with tiki torches.
Gotcha.
And that was how Joe Biden launched his campaign. And this is why I say, I consider myself to be like moderately pro-choice. So where Democrats were with safe, legal, and rare, I think abortion is wrong. I think it is a bad thing, but I also don't know how you get to a governmental system where a woman has to get a court writ to be able to have any kind of medical procedure. The end result, of course, is this. I don't want to. You always got to rehash the abortion debate because people don't understand the nuance.
Before we get into that, let's shout out our boy Isaac. Welcome to the panel, to the party. Isaac said, everyone on the panel, none could or would ever hold a true working class job. What wasn't Tim used to do the shit where he was loading bags on the planes, right? That's working class, is it not? Welcome to the party.
But you end up with a system where it's like a woman goes to the doctor and they're like, heavens me, you're having an emergency, insert something. We have to terminate the baby to save your life, like unrelated to pregnancy. And it's like, okay, let's try and get a speedy writ from a judge to confirm this.
Sure. So,
but the medical abortions has never really been a problem, though.
So my point is, the end result is that you get people abusing the system. So this is the challenge in trying to find a compromise. But without rehashing the abortion debate, my point is, the left's position is abortion up to 9 months for any reason, no matter what.
Well, this is actually what I want to kind of discuss. So I
would say if we had more programs to help after, I'd be fine with that too.
But look at Colorado.
Not to rehash.
Colorado removed all restriction on abortion up to 9 months.
More programs for what? I'm going to assume he meant the other way around because he's a Christian guy. He's not really part of this, so I'm not going to dig too deep into it. But he'd
be fine with that too.
But look at Colorado.
Not to rehash.
Colorado removed all restriction on abortion up to 9 months.
Right, which is what Canada has as well, right?
Which is insane.
Well, the issue is that in Canada, that basically never happens as a result of it. Right?
Doesn't matter.
So,
like, why legalize murder and then be like, yeah, but people don't get murdered, so we're gonna legalize
exactly.
Probably because this fundamentally should be,
or it's the other way around. Actually, if it so rarely happens, why are you so dead set on fighting it?
more of a congressional issue, right? Like the fact that Roe went through the judicial system in the first place is probably fundamentally part of the problem, right? And so
I disagree.
here's what I would maybe zoom out to. We're talking about partisan hacks, right? It's really annoying to talk to partisan hacks as somebody who's left leaning, but I'm not really a partisan hack because I don't have a buy-in on your guys' election. Fundamentally, I'm not voting, right? So I don't care about Biden or Kamala.
She's Canadian, if you missed that part.
Because they represent X party. And you know, I'm sure you're familiar. The left wouldn't even acknowledge that like Biden was kind of weird because he would like had a bunch of clips like kind of like sniffing kids.
Sniffing little girls.
Yeah, it's weird. It's fucking weird. It's super, super weird. The issue is that on the right, I'm now hearing people unironically saying, I don't care about the Constitution. And if Donald Trump wants to get rid of the Constitution, that's fine with me. And it's like, all of this is crazy town.
Yeah, but
I agree with that. I don't like that people are shifting their principles to try to align with what their guy is saying.
But that's not Charlie Kirk or Ben Shapiro or you know, who else do we have? Steven Crowder or, you know.
Sure, we have different things like, for example, getting really mad at like certain violent jokes from the other side, but then celebrating the same types of.
Wait, what do you mean you're not? So wait, you're saying he's lying about that? I mean, okay, if you think that he's lying about that, I don't really care too much either way, but I'd be very surprised that he'd be repeating that story over and over.
At like certain violent jokes from the other side, but then celebrating the same types of violent jokes on your side. I think both sides.
But what he's saying is like the mainstream pundits are the ones pushing for the crazy ideology
talking about the
on the left and
Democrats
and party members too.
Right.
And that's
right. We have crazy people on both sides. That's not up for debate. What we're saying is that you guys on the left have crazy people in your ranks, the thought leaders, the people pushing out the talking points are that crazy. On the right, you know, you may disagree with the way that they speak and the opinions that they have, but it's not, you know, calling for violence and all that shit.
Pushing for the crazy ideology
about the
on the left and
mainstream
Democrats and party
jokes.
members too.
Right.
And that's why I asked you what I asked you earlier when I was like, well, how are you saying that you're like identifying moderate left, but some of the positions that you're holding, you know, the majority of right wing would consider some of them extreme left, and then the rest of them are probably right.
Because when you put well, first of all,
Jesus
part of what I'm trying
Christ,
to say is we're not still talking to each other, right? Like I'm here and I'm.
Did that gross anybody else out? Future tip: if you're ever on a podcast, you need to move the mic.
Defending far left positions. I don't hold any of these positions. There's lots of people around me that don't.
Why don't defend them? I don't know.
Well, those are the only.
My
things.
point is that you're a conservative.
Yeah, I'm not a conservative.
You are.
I'm just not. I'm
see,
fundamentally not, right? I like Ezra Klein's abundance policies, right? I just
what is
like
that? What is
this.
that?
We established before it's not about policies, it's about how you view reality. Shout out to Behave. Welcome to the party. Said I'm offended. My breasts are small B cup. In public, I'm very shy and modest. Having small ones doesn't mean I'm not feminine. Girls hate on me the most for being painfully shy. I don't want the smoke. That is relevant to our running poll, which is a direct reference to something that will come up. Does having bigger breasts equal being more feminine? Yes or no? Hit the poll and let me know. Welcome to the party. Behave. I think Bernie Sanders said rich people need to pay more and we need to fix homelessness and care. Also, Bernie, I have 8 estate manors and planes and cars, etc. Yep. He used to, it was always the millionaires and billionaires. And then as soon as he hit that million mark, he was like, just the billionaires. I mean, yeah. Hey, I mean, definitely. Hey, when it comes to boobies, shape over size. Shape over size. You can get away with small boobs if they are shapely. And sometimes, you know, as we get older and gravity, you know, they may look nice when they're all propped up, but that ain't really what counts, right? Yeah, Isaac knows.
Not right. I like Ezra Klein's.
Hey, why don't you just, you know what? You send me a picture and I'll determine what's good.
Abundance policies, right? I just
what is that? What is that?
Ezra Klein?
Is abundance. I know Ezra Klein, but
his abundance policies, for example, is very big on like basically removing a lot of proceduralism, figuring out like where the inefficiencies are, and making it the case that like blue states can build the things that they believe in, like green energy, high-speed rails, et cetera.
Who disagrees?
Lots of people on the far left.
Steve Bannon wants to tax the rich. He thinks the billionaires should be taxed at 100%.
Sure, but then
is he left wing?
I don't know much about Steve Bannon.
Well, he's considered like the architect of J6, a far right white nationalist, which he's not, by the way. My point is, left and right is not defined by your policies. It's defined by what you believe to be true.
I would say it's how you perform mostly. It's how you appear.
I think it has to do, I mean, I would agree with Tim. I think it has to do with like the underlying culture of each side too.
Wait, so what okay, but dig in. I think the last, like, as fun as the Adam Conover episode was to watch, maybe I'm just connecting dots that aren't there, but it seems like Tim is so ready to like have that argument, and he's not necessarily coming in bad faith, but it like dig into what you just said. What is it?
How you
I think it has.
Yeah, like how you perform. What do you mean how you perform? Maybe we agree with that, because how you perform is going to be based on what you believe. But like, you're just moving on to say the thing that you want to say.
I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with Tim. I think it has to do with like the underlying culture of each side too.
That is how you perform, right?
I mean,
the underlying culture. You code switch really well with men, and you say things that are like
code
switch, right? Like, I'm sure that when you
left-coded language,
code switching, that is
the right doesn't say it.
Code switching is, I'm pretty sure, from black culture. It's definitely not a left-coded thing.
Well, I mean, black culture is left-coded, but
continue. But I'm gonna pull it up.
Code switching.
I love this article.
I'm a boomer. I don't even know what you're talking about.
The term code switching way predates any type of a culture war that we're experiencing now. That is way old. He said, my brother told me, why guys always ask me for, we like boobies. What do you mean? It's not that complicated. We like boobies. We want to see boobies. You can never see enough.
I love this article.
I'm a boomer. I don't even know what you're talking about.
It's a black cultural thing.
Nope. I mean, maybe. Conservatives don't do this. White liberals present themselves as less competent in interactions with African Americans. The idea of like when Tim Walz was like, I can talk to white guys. Conservatives were like, huh? Because conservatives tend not to change their way to communicate for other groups of people.
Just like, look.
And so again, now we're talking past each other. I don't even remember how she brought up code switching, but she wasn't saying that. She wasn't talking about this. And this is kind of what I mean when of Tim being a little bit too like on the ready. Everything she says, he's looking for something to disprove what she's saying when that's not even the point that she was making.
Like, huh? Because conservatives tend not to change their way to communicate for other groups of people.
Just like, look, just look into the origin. If we like need to have this fight, which we don't even need to. Code switching comes from the black culture, which is talking about black people who are existing in like academic spaces who have to.
So this is the real question. Boobs, ass or boobs? And the reason I am an ass man is because basically what Nick said, that you can get away with having small boobs. You can get away with having small boobs. But a flat ass is just, I don't know. Let's take a little break. If you guys are enjoying the show, the party rages on 24/7 over in our Discord. The link is pinned to the top of the chat and is absolutely free to join 24/7. We're in there hanging out, having a great time. And guys, it is absolutely free. However, if you are a member of this channel here on YouTube, you can scroll right below that video and hit that join button. Starts at $2.99. There's a few different tiers, but $2.99 will get you in. It gets you members only live streams here on YouTube, all that other good stuff. But it opens up the full Discord server. So we've got the free chat that is open to anyone. Anybody can join and talk. But as you can see, that is just one of our channels. There's a bunch of different channels here, including our disciple chat for members only, our word of the day watch party, where we're talking about all this stuff. And of course, we have the voice channel here, where we are hanging out at this moment. Shout out to everybody in the Discord server. Say hello and tell them to come and join. There you go, guys. Simple as that. See you there. And of course, remember, guys, that if you join tonight, you get a free pass to the entire Discord server for tonight, including the after party that you just saw. So again, it is absolutely free to join, and you can hang out 24/7. But there is a bunch of other channels, including, like I said, our voice channel, and you get a free pass for that if you join it tonight. Just hit that link.
The black culture, which is talking about black people who are existing in like academic spaces who have to code switch from like the way that black people talk and interact and culturally exist amongst each other to being super white. This is what code switching comes from. It's not even relevant. That's just what code switching is. What I'm talking about here is that when you're thinking about left and right, it's it is reducing on like what policies are. And that's part of my problem, is that left and right should be policies. And the fact that it's performance-based, which you might argue that started with the left. Maybe it did. I'm not fully sure, but say it did. Say it did start with the left.
It goes back and forth, actually.
I would agree with that. I think it's bad all around. I think it's harmful in every single way for people to look at me and go, she's got a choker and earpiece, so this is probably her worldview. It probably isn't. In fact, I think about my worldview. It's much more complex and nuanced. I think that we need to do that to each other. I need to go to Tim Pool and say, what do you believe? Because I know that you're not a stereotypical MAGA. I don't know what it is exactly.
That's right wing.
I mean, I get what she's saying. I agree that we shouldn't necessarily just look at somebody and judge a book by its cover. But the reason people make those decisions is based on the social aspects around them. The reason you don't see conservative women wearing chokers is because other conservative women don't wear chokers. The reason you see so many rainbow-haired fruity kids is because all the fruity kids color their hair. And so it's like, an Ouroboros loop, essentially. Shout out to Caucasian Sasquatch. Welcome to the party. Wake of Mine said, some of those who work forces are the same that burn crosses. Some of those who work forces? I don't know what that means.
You believe, because I know that you're not a stereotypical MAGA. I don't know what it is exactly.
That's right wing.
What
you just described, that ethos of let's talk.
I mean, I would have loved for him to play that out, but I think the notion of looking at somebody and being like, oh, you're that started with identity politics.
Put it this way, Carl Benjamin had a really great breakdown of my conversation with Adam Conover, and the clip that went massively viral, like Asmongold was talking about it, and he did a really funny bit, was I got exasperated after an hour and a half of the conversation where the dude was clearly not interested in truth. And, with all due respect, like Adam Conover, I think he was great in terms of wanting to come on the show and with respect, but politically.
He does not represent us, just so it's very
sure,
clear.
But I mean, he
probably represents the average. I mean, he probably
he's massive.
represents a typical lefty guy.
20 million views per video on left liberal content. He's got a new podcast. He's getting tons of views. He's doing tours. Granted, he got a lot of flack over that crypto thing. But anyway, the point is, I said,
wait, Adam Conover did a crypto rug poll. Is that what I'm hearing?
The very fine people hoax. And he says, which is, and I said that Trump called Nazis fine people. And he goes, right. He said, there's very fine people on both sides. And then I immediately said, and not the neo-Nazis and white nationalists, because they should be condemned totally. To his response, he said that. And I was like, yes. And I pulled up Snopes that said Trump never called them this. And his response was, I don't know anything about it. Immediately got called out by everybody saying, wait, you just quoted it. You literally just referenced the very fine people on both sides, which is what he was accused of saying.
So you guys are saying that's exactly what Erudite just did earlier.
Without citing the remainder of the quote. So you do know what this thing is. Now you're claiming you don't. Carl Benjamin pointed out, he said the ethos.
But to use Erudite's term, it is a Moloch's game. We are already here, and politics is already so thoroughly permeated through our lives.
Of the liberal is adhering to the tribe, to the social order. And he says, and Tim Pool, once of that social order, prioritizes the truth, which is what actually happened. So Tim is desperately trying to say, and I'm quoting Carl, not speaking in third person, this is what actually happened. Whereas Adam is trying to maintain his adherence to social orthodoxy, which I refer to as wokeness. He does not value truth. He values what needs to be said to create social cohesion. Whereas I value truth over social cohesion. It's actually.
I still think that applies to the right, but we'll put that to the side.
I think a masculine feminine coded thing, actually. Women
I think that's true. And there's a question I'd like to pose about. I mean, who do you think it's easier to change men's mind or women's mind?
Women's mind. There's like
you think so?
Yes. The meme that women just become the political system of their boyfriend and husband is like a classic on every single side.
I agree. I think in general, it's going to be easier to change the mind of a woman, but that's a very broad strokes thing. Guys, sundress season! Oh, we love them sundresses. Oh my goodness. Wake of Mine said you deserve a better class of leader. One who will unite the people and allow them to use their power for good, as it should be. I mean, hopefully, but as you were just saying, the whole thing is a scam. So the people like that are not going to get anywhere near power, unfortunately.
political system of their boyfriend and husband is like a classic on every single side. Like,
Yeah.
yes, it is. Women just shift towards typically the opinion of the like people around them by and large. This is just unquestionable.
I would actually argue it's neutral, different. Men respond to different kinds of arguments, and women respond to different kinds of arguments. So understanding the expectations that women have on average that are different, you can exploit either into believing whatever you want.
Yeah.
Thanksgiving must be interesting at your house.
I mean, that's true. I just feel like intuitively, I haven't dug deep into it, but it was something I was thinking about. And it was a good, it's a good segue into it. I just think intuitively men are probably looking for, more logic and more reason-based solutions, or more, if you can prove it to me. Obviously there's outliers and there's crazy people who are going to stick with it to the end.
But that doesn't necessarily confer a logical system. In fact, a lot of guys will be convinced to follow a guy because he's driving a flashy car. This is where you get fake it till you make it. A guy will, there was a guy that I knew who ran a business in California, and he made something like $60,000, $70,000 a year. He spent all of his money on, I can't remember what kind of car it was. He got like a Lotus or something, which is like 50 grand. It's not the craziest, but it looks crazy. And
nice.
Was broke, living in a bachelor apartment. But when he pulled up to business meetings in a Lotus, wearing a nice suit, they said, I want to be like him, not realizing he lived in squalor. He was putting on, and it worked. And he was able to sell his company and he made a lot of money. Fake it till you make it. That's Hollywood, baby.
Performance, right? This is what I'm talking about, is that most people are moved on like vibes, right? That is the social media. It's true. It's the social media domain.
Absolutely. I remember it had to have been over a year ago by now when someone was in the chat asking, do we think politics or me personally, do I think politics is more about policy or about feelings? And I was like, well, obviously policy. Like, what do you mean? And then I was like, you know what? No. Most of this is based on how people feel. Most of it is vibes. Most people don't read the news with any frequency that could be considered enough to really have a full understanding of what's going on. And that's not an indictment on those people. People have lives, but causes us to vote on vibes.
People are moved on like vibes, right? That is the social media. It's true. It's the social media domain, which is unfortunate. The issue is that I'm very tired of hearing like right-leaning people being like, the vibe side is just the left. It's like, it's all of you. It's all of you all the way through. And it always has been. The biggest problem with the Enlightenment, and like to some way, what you're saying of being like, men are the logical, rational ones. I'm like, not really. They tend to be more object oriented, right? But
we got to remember the bell curve of intelligence. That most men are on either end. So there's a lot of very intelligent men, but there's a lot of fucking stupid ass people that are men.
Objectivity and emotionality is a fundamental part of understanding the world around you, because abstraction is essential to engaging in the complexities of what the world is around us. This is fundamentally Soerudite's paradox.
Yeah, I mean, I think the better way to say it is like, I'll
be a Christian for you, baby.
Probably more agree with like what Tim was saying, is that maybe they're more abstract thought oriented, and then men are more like pragmatic.
Well, that would be bad. That would not be good. I think men are able to do abstract thought just as well as women.
Let me put it this way. Typically, not
nice
everybody always gets mad when you reference their group. They're like, I don't do that. Yeah, I get it. If you want to convince a woman to follow and do something, you need to have 10 women standing in front of her, all telling her that's what you're supposed to do.
That's what I was trying to get at.
If you want a man to follow, you need a bunch of men looking up to one big, strong guy lavished in gold and jewels, telling them what to do.
But you can also
I like that visual, the change on how it's not necessarily that men are easily more easily influenced or women are more easily influenced. It's men are more easily influenced by this and women are more easily influenced by that. That doesn't make a sense.
So I feel like so I work in the automotive industry. Like if there's a guy doing something the wrong way, like doing the job the wrong way 10 times, and he's like losing time on it or whatever. If a guy picks on him enough, he's like, oh yeah, you're gonna do it that way again. You're gonna drop, you're gonna go this way, and you can kind of give them shit, and you can kind of break down there and show it to them like, hey, if you try to do it this way.
I got to be honest.
There's a very, very small example of this at the new restaurant that I'm working at, where so at the soda station where they have, get your drinks and everything, they have these the racks of cups, but it's like on a drawer. it's like a drawer, so it's on a shelf, and they have, I don't know if you probably know, you've seen the racks that they put through the dishwasher, right? And so you have to pull out the rack as a drawer and take out a glass. But there's three shelves, or there's three, there's three, and there's usually only ever 2 racks. And so instead of putting it in the top and the middle, I would just put the top one on the bottom, so then you could just reach in and take it. And I'm trying to, I'm the new guy, so I'm trying to get everybody to be like, oh, isn't this easier? Oh, I'll do this for you. And doing exactly what he is saying. Shout out to Madness. Welcome to the party. I've been streaming for 50 minutes and 10 seconds. So probably we maybe not the whole thing, but hey, you guys know how to keep that party raging. Welcome to the party. Very good to see ya. We also got our boy Zippy, the SMV, said men died when feminism turned women into bad men. So as a counterbalance, men became worse women. Yup. Well said. And shout out to Matthew King, also in the building. Welcome to the type of lefty woman that isn't willing or capable of shifting more conservative, is not willing to get married in the first place because of something patriarchy. Yup. Welcome to the party, guys.
You can kind of give them shit, and you can kind of break down there and show it to them like,
oh, and we got equality and deference because vagina. Welcome. Said liked and shared. Thank you so very, very much. You guys know how much that stuff really does help out the channel, and it is so free. And it doesn't even matter if you think anybody's going to click on the link that you share, guys. Just by sharing the video and telling YouTube, I want more people to see this, they will show it to more people. Thank you. Welcome to the party. Let's dive right back in.
You're gonna go this way, and you can kind of give them shit, and you can kind of break down there and show it to them like, hey, if you try to do it this way.
I got to be honest. I actually think in most interactions, if a guy was like working on a car and was doing it wrong, and another guy walked up and said, oh, actually, if you use the ratchet, it'll go faster. He'll go, oh, for real? No, thanks. That's
sometimes they're stuck in their ways, though. Or sometimes
I get it.
They're like, and then you go back out there and they're.
I think generally speaking, obviously guys can be much more ego driven, but I do think the typical interaction with a guy is he'll be like, try doing like,
hey, shout out to Whiskey Guzzler, just joined the Discord. We will see you in the after party.
That, like for me, there are people who skateboard. I've been skateboarding longer than they've been alive, and I watch their trick tip videos. Because I have no illusions of, like, I'm not going to lie to myself. I can't do that thing. Here's a guy who's 15 years old who's better at me. He's going to tell me how to do it. Dang, I've been skating longer than he's been alive. I'll take the advice that I can get. But more to the point, I think there are obstinate guys who are going to be like, I know what I'm doing. Get out of my face. But anyway, the major point is the Democratic Party is female coded. The Republican Party is male coded. You were mentioning that it's like performative in vibes, but I would argue that's a generality of the left and a tendency of the right. So on the right, I was on trigonometry.
So basically, meaning it does happen on both sides, but it's more central to being on the left, where it's kind of an anomaly on the right.
It was like 2 months ago. They put out a month ago. And what the guys in trigonometry said to me was that you're just blanketing the left. I could say something about the right. And I said, you're wrong. Yeah, you're wrong. On the right, you have Tulsi Gabbard, former liberal, RFK Jr., former liberal. You have Elon Musk, former liberal. Technically all still liberals, I guess. But
Shout out to Ty Cobb in the building. Let's go with fashionably late. Welcome to the party.
You have Tulsi Gabbard, former liberal, RFK Jr., former liberal. You have Elon Musk, former liberal. Technically all still liberals, I guess, but working with the Republicans. And then you have Christian conservative Charlie Kirk, probably the most prominent, who says, Tim Pool, you're a moderate liberal-leaning guy. Come sit on my stage for the biggest event of the year in politics and talk about what you think. And it's that's not vibe coded. I can go on that stage and say Donald Trump should be criminally investigated for the commando raid in Yemen that killed a 7-year-old American girl.
But that was also the event where you were saying something about how we need to get back to God, to supposedly, or what I think, to try to get some goodwill with the people there. But just saying.
On that stage and say Donald Trump should be criminally investigated for the commando raid in Yemen that killed a 7-year-old American girl. And the conservatives are like, okay, but heaven forbid a liberal go into space and say something like, remember Seth Moulton was like, we shouldn't be having males compete in women's sports. They went after that guy, went for his throat.
Well, they couldn't admit that there was some like signs of early dementia or some signs of like mental degradation and then as soon as he gets out of office, or
what? Joe Biden? Mental degradation? I don't know about that.
Maybe they're thinking about running Kamala against him.
Oh,
He's falling
The
apart.
group that is accepting is always the group that's been on the tail end for the last little bit, right? So the left was the really accepting.
Let's say that again.
Group that is accepting is always the group that's
The group that is accepting is the group.
been on the tail end for the last little bit, right?
Okay, fair. Yeah. So the MAGA has gotten a lot of shit from the left, so they're going to be more welcoming, and she's going to make the argument that is probably going to flip, and the pendulum swings. Equality over on Rumble said liberal in the real sense, contrasted against liberal as in fucking crazy. Yup. These words. That's semantic obfuscation.
He's falling
The
apart.
group that is accepting is always the group that's been on the tail end for the last little bit, right? So the left was the really accepting chill group that just
Dilly dilly to Waco line. Good one.
basically allowed everyone in as long as you stood for a lot of similar ideas, and they would kind of talk to everyone during the entire rationalist era, right? It was a very, very open space. The issue is that then the left won the culture war by canceling a lot of right speakers off of their platforms, and then they got deranged and echo chambered and wouldn't talk to anyone anymore. So now the right is the accepting side, but to assume that it will remain the accepting side is just false.
Well, that's exactly what I'm saying. Like, there's no evidence to even support that it's doing that.
If you don't mind, sorry. Whereas you look back to like the early era when the
I like how she did that. That was a feminine, because in debate mode, can I finish? You're going to finish. Shut up. But she did it in a feminine way.
The accepting side is just false.
Well, that's exactly what I'm saying. Like, there's no evidence to even support that it's doing that.
If you don't mind, sorry.
I like that. I am attracted to that energy, that vibe, if you will. Shout out to Josie. Welcome to the party. That AOC is the top candidate for the Democratic Party. They still haven't learned. Good. That gives us more time to figure the fuck out what we're going to do after Trump, because we definitely need to figure that out. Welcome to the party. Wake of Mine said, I know half of you as much as I would like, and I like less than half of you, half as much as you deserve. Bilbo Baggins and Lord of the Rings movie. All right, some good quotes. Let's dive back in here. Oh, look who we got. Long time no see. Shout out to the Funk Master General. Welcome to the party. So the Overlord sitting right there in silence. And yet we still question the existence of God. If we want to call Morty God, I am no longer an atheist. Thank you. So very, very much getting us started hot on our swole goal, guys. That's right. 15 supers or $50 in total hits the goal. Thank you so very, very much, sir. And of course, that makes you the new sponsor of the stream. Very much appreciated. Welcome.
Well, that's exactly what I'm saying. Like, there's no evidence to even support that it's doing that.
If you don't mind, sorry. Whereas you look back to like the early era when the right was culturally leading again. If you look back into like maybe like the 90s or whatever, you see a very strict system on the right where if they find out that you've ever cheated, you're out. If they find out that you've got a baby out of wedlock, you're out. If they find out you've sworn too many times, it was very, very purity testing, because typically the group that is in the higher level of cultural power will create purity testing because they're better. And so
I think she's spot on here. I hadn't really heard anybody talking about this, but I think she's spot on.
They can kick people out, and then the other group absorbs them until that other group gets more power, and then it'll be back and forth and back and forth. The reason I am left is because of what I believe.
Right.
And that's
it.
So
I'm left too.
Sure.
Except no one in the modern political space will say Tim Pool's left wing.
Potential.
I'm in that same boat where it's like, I think technically, if we look at the entire spectrum, I am much closer to the center and maybe even left leaning. But because the fringes dominate the conversation, that's changed at least for the rhetoric. It's changed the Overton window, and it just doesn't mean the same thing anymore.
Except no one in the modern political space will say Tim Pool's left wing.
Potential. I don't know all of your political leanings, so you might be left.
So like Steve Bannon is a better example. So I don't talk about myself. I've argued with him. He's left of me. He said we should be taxing the billionaires and everything. Take their money. They're crooks. They're ripping us off. They're flooding the electoral system. They're buying our politicians. Take everything they got. And I was like, why? And he goes, so they don't have it. It has nothing to do with, you love saying we're going to
No principles, just positions. That's some woke right shit.
fund. I said, no. The billionaires are bad. And then I laughed and I was like, Steve, you would have fit right in at Occupy Wall Street. And he's like, you think? And I was like, that's literally the Occupy Wall Street position. The billionaires are ripping us off. They flooded the zone in politics with money. They don't represent our interests. They're selling out the working class. They've been doing it for a long time. This is why Bernie Sanders was popular. It was he literally.
Tell me about it. Tell me about it. Shout out to John Doe in the building. Welcome to the party. Said Trump is just a 90s Democrat. Yep, that's what MAGA is. 90s Democrat policy. Pretty much. Bomsex, this lady actually seems like she's going to go through the exact arc that Anna Kasparian did. I don't think so. Again, I don't know too much about her, but the reason I would say not necessarily is because she's already she seems to already have a better understanding of the opposition than Anna did. I think Anna was much more sectioned off in her echo chamber. And so realizing the non-truths of that echo chamber had a bigger effect on her. Whereas NotSoErudite here is already aware of, other positions and just chooses not to. So, I don't think so, but you could definitely be right. Master General said 10 push-ups for $50. What are you, China? Doesn't seem like a fair deal. I'm right there with you. Every single time we hit the goal, we up the number of push-ups, but we haven't hit the goal. So we got to hit the goal, guys. Because it's going to stay at 15 and 50. So if we get 5 in a row and I got to do like 100 push-ups, it is what it is. Shout out. Oh, did we get another? We got that one already? We did get that already. Oh, we got Whiskey Guzzler again. Who's Whiskey Guzzler? Is that somebody here? Or is that somebody not here? We'll figure that out later. All right. What else did I miss here? Ty said, I haven't voted since the 80s. We had good music. Hey, we had great music in the 2000s. Just, not that same stuff. Oh, yeah, that's right where we are headed. Right where we are headed. Put a one in the chat if you would donate to $2 a push-up.
For a long time. This is why Bernie Sanders was popular. It was he literally said in 2015, open borders is a Koch brothers proposal. No open borders. And the World Socialist website called him a nationalist capitalist for wanting secure borders. Left and right has nothing to do with your policy views. Literally nothing.
It must. What I'm saying is I don't care what these bullshit assholes say.
I guess no ones.
I don't care. They don't get to rob us of our words, and they don't get to rob us of our principles.
You're talking about the right robbing us of our words? Remember when we used to have the word that meant something, racism? Not anymore. We could go down the whole list. Remember when woman used to mean female? Projection. Wow is right. Wow is right. Yikes. Wagga Mine said Bernie Sanders has been the most consistent politician, technically. I don't know that I disagree with that, but he's been consistently shitty. And consistently a fucking beta. Like, if you have these ideas, fight for them. So, well, these are my ideas, and we should be following. No, you don't want. Oh, okay, never mind that. Contact. So would love to donate, but I'm tapped out for the week, unfortunately. Oh, good guys. Of course, it is a completely free show to watch.
Say. I don't care. They don't get to rob us of our words, and they don't get to rob us of our principles, right? I'm a Christian that lots of Christians don't like. And that doesn't mean that I'm not a Christian. That doesn't mean that I don't love Christianity, and I fight for it like vehemently because I believe in it, despite the fact that most of the group would kick me out. I'm a feminist that most feminists call a pick-me. They don't like me very much, but I'm a feminist because I believe in what the actual movement of feminism says.
The left has destroyed the semantic world, which is why we need to stop semantic obfuscation. Head to TheIndianJesus.com for your very own. We've got bags, we got mugs, we've got greeting cards, we got what's my favorite one? The phone case. You can get your own phone case in any of these designs. Head over to TheIndianJesus.com.
And guns. I think gun laws are very feminist, right?
Right wing.
I'm just not right wing because left-leaning policy is strong institutions, regulated economy, right? It is taking care of the vulnerable, welfare state, and it is allowing individuals freedoms and liberties to do what they would like to do.
Yeah, but I think I get what you're saying, but I'm going to say it again. Colloquially today, people don't use that word in that way.
Mm-hmm.
And you can make
so
the argument.
Take it from me.
This is the same argument as trying to say that woke means aware and like black people originally used it, aware of deeper truths and stuff like that. That's not how people use it anymore. Language evolves organically. Hey, shout out to Abe Dinkus becoming a member. Thank you so much. Of course, YouTube doesn't count that, but I do. Yummy. There we go. So that is 2 out of 15, guys. 2 out of 15, and it can be 99 cents counts. 99 cents counts. Thank you. And you're already in the Discord, but if you weren't, you definitely should join.
Today, people don't use that word in that way.
Exactly.
And you can make
exactly
the
You don't
argument.
get to take it from me.
So my point is, let's just say this: we'll call it tribal left, tribal right. We'll call it team red and team blue. You're team red.
I'm team gray.
You're actually team red.
Scott Alexander writes about this.
It's fascinating that
I'm not. I don't want to get into Trump bashing here, especially because I really do want to avoid.
Do it. I would love to hear your Trump bashing. Matthew said, remember when 86 was just a restaurant term to remove something from a menu? Yep. Semantic obfuscation.
Like doing too much domestic policy conversation as like a Canadian stuff, but like I'm not team red because I think what the conservative purpose is to preserve and to consecrate and conserve tradition and values and constitution.
Yeah, why the fuck would we want to do that?
Which like made us in the past so great. And the point of the left is to progress us and push us forward. And I want to do that. I want to push us forward.
That's the right.
It's not.
So are you really under the impression that people on the right don't want society to progress? Is that really what you think? I don't think so.
Colloquial right.
It's not.
Like 9 million Obama voters in 2016 voted for Donald Trump. And one of the big reasons was that Donald Trump went on stage at the RNC and unfurled a pride flag to thunderous applause. Donald Trump came into the Republican Party and pushed this political faction in a progressive direction. He's a moderate. Even Vox called him a moderate. You've got many drag and transgender Trump supporters. Donald Trump said on the issue of gay marriage,
not a fan of any of that.
Donald,
so,
Donald
someone who's further right. Yeah, I mean,
here we go. The trans stuff. Let's get into it.
Have to have M and
right,
F on their passports. So now most trans people cannot go internationally anywhere where they don't appear as like an M on their passport.
And
that's just not, that's dangerous for trans people. If if you want to do, I'm running into this with a friend right now who tries to do war correspondence in countries that don't like trans people. She, in every way, is a woman. Nobody would look at her and think that that person should walk into a male bathroom. But
you sure?
Because she's trans, she has an M on her passport, and she now cannot go into multiple very conservative countries because of threats to her life.
To be fair,
I mean, she'd be under, he'd be under threat if they went anyways.
No, she wouldn't, because most people, first of all,
I'm trying to find something real quick. I think it's on my Twitter. I'll let this play, but it's relevant to what she just said.
He'd be under
conservative countries because of threats to her.
Well, to be fair.
Oh, looking like a man. Looking like a man.
He'd be under threat if they went anyways.
No, she wouldn't, because most people, first of all, she was not super out about her transness. Most people never knew at all. And she has gone into these countries numerous of times in the past. She can't anymore at all because of this passport change. That isn't helping trans people. That is
That
fundamentally.
just seems like a self-inflicted.
But
sort of problem.
regardless,
self-inflicted at all.
I mean, you're choosing to go to those zones. You're
She's a
choosing to
war
go to those
correspondent
areas.
as her career.
Anyways.
Yes, she goes to Iraq, but she's always
this
gone to
is-
Iraq.
you know,
Since this is going to come up, this is a little bit of a side quest, but I'm just scrolling through my own Twitter feed here, and this came up. It said, nobody really believes that life begins at conception from our very own Not So Erudite.
If an entire group, millions of people, believe that life begins at conception, and not one of them is in any way motivated to solve the implantation question, it suggests to me you don't actually care that much about life beginning at conception. It's just a handy thing to use to comport with what you feel like is your state of beliefs, but you're literally not acting upon your state of beliefs. Because if as a group you all felt that life begins at conception, as a group, at least some of you should probably be pretty invested in solving the embryonic implantation question, but you're not. I don't see.
Do you know that? Who said they were not interested? And so she's saying because of when you do IVF, they have embryos that can die. And if you say that life begins at conception, then those are babies dying, which they technically are. But what I was saying to her, or not to her, but in response, I said the difference is in intent. There's absolutely an issue with implanted embryos dying, but it's a different issue than abortion, even though it talks about the same thing. Income inequality and homelessness are not the same thing, even if they are directly related. So that's the level of argumentation from Not So Erudite. Is erudite a good thing? Because if not so erudite, then I don't know what erudite means. But anyway, so I'm still looking through the other thing. But moving on.
Any Christian.
It seems like a self-inflicted.
But
sort of problem.
regardless,
Self-inflicted at all.
I mean, you're choosing to go to those zones. You're
She's a
choosing to
war
go to those
correspondent
areas.
as her career.
Anyways.
Yes, she goes to Iraq, but she's always
this
gone to
is-
Iraq.
you know, I'll concede this is a lefty position, and it is. I would refer to as I don't know what's the right way to describe this. Farcical, fantastical. I did conflict reporting. I didn't go to any active war zones. I went to civil war and like conflict and crisis and disaster zones. And it was always fascinating to me because of this political correctness reality, especially pertaining to HR and stuff. The story that I usually tell is I was doing what's called heat training. It's redundant. Heat includes the word training. Hostile environment action training. And they couldn't actually tell the women not to go to these zones and prepare them for what happens to women in war zones because they'd get sued if they did. And so someone asked this former MI6 guy, should women who go into conflict zones be concerned about rape? And he went, men get raped. Men get raped. Anyway, so moving on. Because he literally couldn't say, if you're a woman, you go to a war zone, you're captured, you'll be mercilessly raped and sold into slavery. And if you're a man, you probably won't be.
No, we don't.
Because if he did, that would be sexual discrimination in a work environment because this is a contracted company for insurance providers and media outlets. He's not allowed to say that things. These things.
Yup. What am I missing from you guys here? And yeah, exactly. I'm going to progress for progress's sake. A stink bug just landed on my thing, and I don't have the means to get rid of it with whatever. Behave said, I don't agree with Trump on that at all. Which was this referring to? They want your children. They definitely do. Behave said, I don't want to go into a gym dressing room and change with a man. I mean, I don't think any man or woman does, but I joke. Yeah, right. Same shit. I got to get you guys to fucking pay me to do any kind of activity. Guamtag said, if it isn't my old enemy, the results of my own actions. Almost seems like your friend is actively deciding to go to countries that wouldn't accept them. Well, there's war there. That's what I have to do. There's no other job that I can do. Therefore, it must be that I can do this. They need to change the NBA because I am a basketball player. I'm a basketball player and I can't reach. So they have to change that. Like, come on. The other guy is AmericanNachos. Never heard of him. Not really relevant to this conversation from what I saw. So, yeah, exactly. What war zone would be safe for a trans person in the first place? None. That's why they call it a war zone. Like a mind said, if you're competent and honorable, you will have a place in the world. If you stand for evil, you will be the antithesis of the society. Force is not the original authority. Compassion is. I like that. Agreed. Definitely starts at conception. And so that's why we can say, yes, that is bad that these embryos are dying. That doesn't mean that it's okay to kill more of them. That's a retarded line of thinking. Shout out to Steven. Welcome to the party. Yep, not so erudite. She is here. Remember when she was starting off TikTok? Now she's a Destiny simp. Yep, that's who we're talking with. Welcome to the party. Wickerman said, no wonder the billionaires are pissed. Women, queers, immigrants, ethnics are all protected classes. Billionaires are not a special class protected by law from discrimination. That would be pretty fun. They're just all over the place in Jersey, or at least Central Jersey. They're just all over. All right, diving back in here.
Slavery, and if you're a man, you probably won't be.
You'll be killed.
Because if he did, that would be sexual discrimination in a work environment because this is a contracted company.
Oh, I missed equality and deference. I apologize. Said, well, I identify as her bra, so get to squeeze them titties. There you go. So erudition is the same ballpark as wisdom. Is it? I feel like you're just saying that because it would be funny.
Erudite.
Well, she named herself Not So Erudite, and having or showing great knowledge or learning. You said it, not me. You said it, not me.
Because if he did, that would be sexual discrimination in a work environment because this is a contracted company for insurance providers and media outlets. He's not allowed to say these things. So stupid. The idea that a trans person thinks they have a right to go to a conflict zone and, oh, heavens me, my passport, dude, that you die. You go to conflict zones, you assume the risks of who you are and what you are. And this idea that you are entitled to some special privilege to go to a foreign country where you may be killed in any circumstance is laughably insane.
What's the benefit of changing any of these passport things except
in
for
1993, there was a law passed in the United States.
Wait, what's the benefit of changing? I think that would be our question. You are the one that wants to change the passports. No, did I hear that incorrectly?
To go to a foreign country where you may be killed in any circumstance is laughably insane.
What's the benefit of changing any of these passport things except
in
for
1993?
There is none. So why are you fighting for it?
There was a law passed in the United States because forever, when medical testing was done for drugs, they did not do it on women. And so when women would go to the hospital with pain, they'd say, take this painkiller. And the woman would say, it hurts. And they go, women are such fucking babies. And then they were like, hey, maybe drugs work differently on men and women due to physiology. So they passed a law saying from now on, medical research has to be done on both men and women because we are just kind of realizing the drugs work differently on women. So if someone, considering men and women have different organs, quite literally, there's a reason for why we designate your gender
on your passport.
It's an ID.
Why on my passport does it need to say for somebody who in every single way, it's like Blair White,
sure.
Look at them and say, it looks like a woman.
Are women allowed to walk around?
As we just stated, you have different organs. So if you need to use that as identification and it doesn't identify you, it's not a very good ID.
Outside in Islamic nations? Without a man?
I was going to say with a man and usually covered, yes.
So with a man. So if a female decides to get a visa to...
Do you think that a Blair White could walk around in Islamic countries without a man because they'd be like, well, she's trans? No, of course not.
Of course not.
So the workhorse...
Right, but that's because she's trans, not because she's a male.
Is already going.
Think you have a right to subvert the laws of a foreign nation that has invited you into their country?
How is it subverting the laws?
Lying to subvert their laws, which have specific gendered laws. You say, I should have a government document that lies so I can break the law in that country. Isn't it absurd?
It just doesn't make any sense to me. The laws that they would be...
That's because you're not listening.
...breaking is that if Blair White has M on their passport, I guess Blair should be walking around without head coverings and wearing like keffiyeh and not having a person, which they would kill her for because they would see a woman.
What right do you have to someone else's nation?
Exactly. Don't go there then. Don't go there then. And we're not saying America is going to stop you from going there. You, as an individual human being, should decide not to do that, despite the fact that theoretically you legally can't.
I don't understand.
This isn't about a right. This is about your own country granting you the ability to exist.
Does it though? That's literally how human history has been. throughout human history.
His nation. I don't understand.
This isn't about a right. This is about your own country granting you the ability to exist and perform in the way that every single person is going to treat
We're
you.
talking specifically about your friend who wants to go to conflict zones in foreign countries and lie to their government to get privy to access.
You have the right to go and do your work.
No, you don't. No, you don't.
Do not have a right to someone else's nation. They grant you a privilege to enter under visa.
Sure, but the issue is that you're making it seem like I would grant you that if it was the other nations.
So, of course, if Andrew Wilson were here, he would be like, okay, what is a right? And that would be a reasonable question now, because you're saying you have a right to enter a different country based on documentation that's lying about yourself. What exactly do you think a right is?
For visa.
Sure, but the issue is that you're making it seem like I would grant you that if it was the other nations getting mad at America, being like, put M on trans passports. But that's not what happened. Trump made the decision himself, unrelated to any external pressures.
Yes, he decided to not lie. That's it.
I'm not even sure why.
You said they could be killed.
They could be killed.
Why?
If Blair White,
would the
because of the
government take
war!
action against this person?
They probably would get in major trouble at the border at all.
Major
Agreed.
trouble.
So you're asking the U.S. government to produce a false document to lie to a foreign government.
It's not
to get a visa.
Major trouble.
Are you saying that it was a false document before, that the government was just lying this entire time?
If you're a man,
Yes. 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 I forget how far Lauren Southern took it up in Canada, but she got her gender to be attack helicopter. That is a lie. That is a lie. In no sense of the word is she a helicopter. Why do I have to articulate this?
lie to a foreign government.
It's not are you saying that it was a false document before, that the government was just lying this entire time?
If you're a man and they put female on your passport, they're lying.
Well, if you put gender and put woman, isn't that fine?
There's no W.
Oh, we got the Sam Harris. We got the Sam Harris argument. Well, if things were different, then they'd be different. Yep. Shout out to CT223. Welcome to the party. Said it's crazy to even have to bait it. They answer the question the first 10 minutes. Democratic Party punishes masculinity. It is pretty simple, isn't it? Yeah, Gontek said, I identify as eating pork. Should I be allowed in Muslim countries? No. No pork. No pork. Welcome to the party, CT223.
You're a man and they put female on your passport, they're lying.
Well, if you put gender and put woman, isn't that fine?
There's no W. It's male or female. Those are sexes. It's biology.
Sure, but couldn't we just update the passport to be gender?
No.
Why not?
Because we're identifying a biological structure of human beings for a purpose, because different laws.
On the passport?
Indeed.
Yes. What do you mean on the pass? Yes.
It's an ID. And we have international treaties with foreign nations because.
Is it not an ID? What was that face?
Human beings for a purpose, because different laws.
On the passport?
Indeed. It's an ID. And we have international treaties with.
Yes. That is an
foreign nations because they have different laws than us. This idea that Americans get to go and do whatever they want whenever they want is so stupid.
That's not what I'm advocating for.
You think an American male should be able to get a passport that says they're a female so they can enter a country where it's illegal and do things that are otherwise illegal?
I think that the idea that like you were basically saying that Trump is pro-trans in every way. And I said,
I didn't say he was pro-trans.
You said that he was very
moderate on the issue.
Yeah, exactly. And I said,
What do you mean? Whoa. Semantic obfuscation right in front of your face. You said Trump was pro-trans. I didn't say Trump was pro-trans. I said he was moderate on the issue. Yeah, exactly.
What?
Honey, those are not the same words, as no matter what you want them to be.
I think that the idea that like you were basically saying that Trump is pro-trans in every way. And I said,
I didn't say he was pro-trans.
You said that he was very
moderate on the issue.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what I said.
And I said, he immediately did something that actually has security and life threats against your civilians. You know what the American government has responsibility for? Protecting its citizens.
What does that have to do with entering a foreign country under sovereign jurisdiction?
Because you're still an American citizen that the government has a procedure to protect. So if that trans person goes,
if a regular person goes to a war zone as a war correspondent and they die, that's America's fault for not protecting them?
What?
Do you know what? I'll embrace that.
Why?
Blair White goes, it should say M on my passport, and then goes in. Does the American government have to go rescue her when she inevitably gets attacked and assaulted? Or does she just have to give up?
Under the same circumstances it would if she was not trans.
Up on her career as a war correspondent.
Yes, you do. You're not entitled to these things. This is weird.
It's such a wild thing for you to say.
Weird.
It's totally chill that the American government can just be like, nah, you're not allowed to do.
I think you're lying.
Correct. We're very chill with the government not saying you can lie. You're weird. She thinks our government actually protects our citizens. They, that's what the rhetoric is. So that's what makes you a liberal. It's not the policies, it's your view on reality, as Tim said before. Wagamine said you will have no freedom and be happy about bickering with each other over minor differences in self-expression and ethnicity. All while grifters and charlatans work with big business to destroy, I'm going to assume, everything. Yep. You got it.
Say it's totally chill that the American government can just be like, nah, you're not allowed to do.
I think you're lying.
Anymore. I'm not lying.
You think Americans should have a right to commit crimes in other countries? Yes or no?
That's not what I've said.
I'm not saying you are, but is the answer no?
No.
So Americans should not be able to break the law in other countries,
Correct.
even when those laws are bullshit.
By and large, and
Like,
the American government should protect you when you do it.
Don't go to where's like Dubai. They have like if a woman gets raped in Dubai, you go to prison. Okay, so is it illegal for women to walk around in these countries? It is, right?
Yeah, without the
Without a
male
man.
and et cetera, et cetera. Yes.
So if a female
I can imagine. I don't think she could.
dresses up like a man and takes hormones to mask it to the government, like let's say a woman in Saudi Arabia starts illicitly taking testosterone to appear like a man to go around and break, they would get in trouble for that, wouldn't they?
Probably not if they passed well enough, because nobody would know.
No. I'm saying when they got caught, it's a crime. It
Yeah,
is
they would-
illegal to do.
Because they're trans, yeah.
So I don't understand
It's
how you're
illegal to be
arguing.
trans. You're basically
that
saying that trans people just shouldn't go where where it's illegal for them to exist. That's what you're saying.
Why would you?
Right? Like, that's what I'm saying. Yes. Don't go where you think you might die.
Well, hold on.
Any reason that you might want to do war correspondence? What do
Sure.
you mean?
Okay, but that's an inherently dangerous thing. I don't. She's acting like it's working at Chick-fil-A.
Do you recognize that war correspondents can die?
Yeah.
So I don't understand what your point is.
My point is that you should
People
be
have a right to
allowed-
go to foreign war zones without the risk of death, and they should be
That's
able to,
not what I'm advocating for. They have a right to be able to go, and their government shouldn't be immediately
They
outing them to
don't-
make it more
wait.
dangerous.
You think people have a right to go to any country they want?
Assuming that the government approves their visa, et cetera, et cetera. Yet
Right, but you want them to lie on the visa. You want them to lie on the passport. So they would allow based on the truth. So if you lie and you get in based on the lie, then it's not actually the government approving. It's the government approving a lie. Hey, shout out to Dinkins. So let's go, folks. Lunch has to eat. I do have to eat, but it's really about Morty, guys. I do not feed him unless you guys pay me. That's it. Thank you so very, very much. That is 3 out of 15 and 22 out of 50. We are getting there. Thank you so very, very much, sir. Quantek said, I don't want to die in a war zone, so my passport should say that I'm immortal. I mean, that's pretty much her argument. Yeah. Come on, man.
You think people have a right to go to any country they want?
assuming that the government approves their visa, et cetera, et cetera. Yet not right.
Okay.
I should say,
I agree if they
a
approve their
liberty.
visa, right?
They had the liberty to go, I should say. A right is probably the
Assuming
wrong
that
word.
foreign government says we will
Okay.
grant you the visa.
Yeah, the liberty to.
Do people have a right to lie on their visa applications?
No, but the issue is that
Exactly.
before the government didn't view that it was a lie. And now
well,
they
it
do.
is.
But it is. Yeah. It
Because
doesn't.
we're not talking about gender on passports. You agree with that. We're talking about biological sex.
I'm advocating that essentially you probably should allow somebody like
Different
Blair
argument.
White
Different argument. You are upset that Donald Trump said you have to have your biological sex on the
undid
passport
something because it was already done.
because they were putting fake sexes on passports.
Essentially, yeah, which would have been better if they did gender instead. I agree.
Okay, so then the issue.
Right. But we're not doing that. We're not doing that because gender has no relevance to your identification, despite what the fucking Democrat politicians and pundits will tell you. Your gender has nothing to do with your identity.
Is, which is this is where the contention is. You have a friend who wants a false biological sex listed on their passport,
Once their
so they
passport
can
not to
defraud a
change.
foreign country into entering.
Not really. I want them to be able to have the liberty to go there, and that
So again, dig in. How is it not defrauding them? In what way is lying to them not defrauding them?
the moment that they go there, they won't
The liberty to go there
the liberty to go there.
at the permission of the government.
Both
who
of
expects
them.
you to tell the truth on things like what your biological
For
sex
example,
is.
if your government just agrees that essentially you perform as a woman and they're willing to give you an F so that you can enter spaces safely and walk around and not be attacked for just how you appear, yes.
But that's not what the other countries are asking for. So fine. If you want to have gender on there, then you can have gender on there. But that's like saying, well, I don't want my date of birth on there because, you know, like, what do you think a passport is for?
Do you think countries like the Emirates and Dubai appreciate the fact that people are lying about their gender to bypass?
Probably not.
Exactly.
Probably not. I
So
just don't really.
I don't.
I don't
That's good for foreign affairs, right? Not like, I mean, you know, the Middle East is very peaceful, so we don't have to worry about, you know, like that kind of stuff there. But, you know,
care about like
This is American exceptionalism. This is like American citizens can present false paperwork to foreign countries to get access to their
it's not false paperwork if the government verifies it.
nation. It is.
it's not false if the government verifies it. It's not false if the government verifies it, she says. I am I'm trying to come up with a joke, but I am just speechless. And I really I don't I don't have anything else to say except this is the same thing as religion.
It's not.
So when the government says it, it's true.
On the passport,
If
fundamentally,
the government asserts something, it's a fact. Is that?
that's not what I've said.
And it's not true.
We
A
have
lot,
to-
the government
You literally did say that.
can lie.
Well, Tim, do you want to engage with what I'm saying, or do you want to create a
No, I think
version
you're
of what
lying.
I'm not lying. I'm
She's not lying. She's just wrong and changing her position. She's pivoting. That is explicitly what you said. It's not a lie if the government verifies it. That's what you said.
An individual has no right to a foreign country, period.
I've never said that they have a right. They have a liberty to it,
A liberty to what?
to apply to go there.
And is lying to that government okay?
It's not lying if your government is willing to agree that essentially you
So you did say that.
can be.
Are males
F.
females?
No, they're not.
Okay, so if a male says I'm female, is that a lie?
Yes.
Yes. Shout out to DB. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the party. Yeah, exactly. According to the North Korean government, everyone is healthy and safe. The government verified it. Therefore, it must be true. Great point. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Government can make things true is a wild ass claim. Great. Great. Woman brain.
No, they're not.
Okay, so if a male says I'm female, is that a lie?
Yes.
And so if a person applies for a passport to the government who is male and says I'm female, is he lying?
It depends on if the government is willing to allow female to include woman.
No, they're not on this show. But if you go on some of the lefty shows, I think money is the only purpose.
Women looking. And if
I'm talking about sexes, not genders.
yeah, and if the government,
a
which
lie
is what
for
it
a
pre-
man?
I'm answering you.
You're-
That is a non sequitur. If they did this, is a non sequitur. A non sequitur means you're saying something that doesn't belong in this conversation. Maybe I agree with you. Maybe I don't agree with you that they should or should not have gender and it will be better and this and that and that and that and that. But that doesn't have to do with what we're talking about. We're talking about putting sex on the passport. And you keep pivoting to this gender thing. We're not talking about that.
talking about sexes, not genders.
Yeah, and if the government,
a
which
lie
is what
for
it
a man?
I'm answering you. I'm answering you.
this
Tim,
is
Tim,
why
you
men are
have to let me
leaving the
finish.
left.
You have to let.
Collie said, little Timmy is holding her hand and walking her through. She needs it. She needs it.
Well, the issue is you have to let me talk, right? I'm engaging with you in exceptionally good faith.
This is why men are
I'm
leaving the
answering your.
Are you not? God damn it. I went to reach for that, but I missed it. But yeah, you literally said a thing. We've repeated back the thing that you said. And now you're saying, will you engage with what I'm actually saying in good faith? Ugh.
your questions directly, and I'm not pivoting away from them.
You are.
If things were different, I would be right. If things were different, things would be very different.
You just don't like my answers,
A
which is
male?
totally okay.
A male who says I'm female is lying because we're talking about biological sex.
Yes.
So if a male goes to the Saudi government and says I'm a female, he lied, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Do you think people have a right to lie to foreign governments to get visas?
To get visas, not usually. I'm sure there's some exceptions that I might be okay with it.
That you can lie to a foreign government to get a visa?
Yeah. So, for example, if you
Shame, insults, guilt, and the need to be right. Oh, these females and their sign language.
Usually, I'm sure there's some exceptions that I might be okay with it.
That you can lie to a foreign government to get a visa.
Yeah. So, for example, if you like, I think a lot of people lie to North Korea on their visas. It's like what they're doing, who are helping like smuggle in information and like helping freeing North Koreans, for an example. So, like,
sure. To be fair, we're talking about like
Jordan Hart-
subterfuge.
Actually, I shouldn't say anyone who does this, right? But there are people who do this to like really extremist regimes like North Korea. In that case, they're lying on their visa. But I'm kind of okay with it, right? Because they're trying to help the North Koreans, right? So,
So in your mind, the ability or the right, rather, to go do war correspondence is equivalent to saving people who are under a literal fascist dictatorship. Okay, dude.
this case, if you've got a country,
So it's an adversarial nation.
Yep.
And we
so
have
if you've got a country that looks at trans people and says that they don't exist, and there is no way for Blair to enter safely without us killing her, I'm okay lying a little bit to that country so that Blair can enter safely. And
Fine, then just say that. Say that we should be able to lie. That's not what you were saying before.
do her job.
and the
Yes.
government should aid that lie.
Well, the lie would be. The issue is that the lie depends on how the government's determining like what qualifies.
No, it doesn't. The truth does not depend on the government's determination.
As F. If they're allowing basically woman performing people to qualify as F for the sake of a passport,
That doesn't make it true. That doesn't make it true. It is still a lie. An allowed lie is still a lie. This is not complicated.
it's not really a lie.
I think this is a really great example of why young men are leaving the left, because I'll just give you my personal feelings, which just how I interpret this moment right now.
Sure.
Your statements are illogical.
They're not. They're just not face
Yeah, they
valid. They're not face valid, right?
Like,
you know what that means?
You've made a claim that you've backtracked a little bit when you fluttered between gender and sex. You then said that we should change passports to be gender, not sex. You acknowledge that sex is
Sure.
different.
Yeah. I should have baked in extra
You've
arguments.
asserted an entitlement to lie to foreign governments for access to their countries.
Mhm.
You,
to
like,
some degree, yeah.
this
You
is-
agreed to that, though, right?
so no,
You-
I didn't.
Yeah, you said there's certain
I
situations.
was
that you're going
acknowledging
to
what you
lie.
had said about people.
Fire from funk. It's almost like talking the meaning out of our language is someone's goal. The entire left. Well fucking said. Well said. Yeah, I mean, that seems to be the goal of semantic obfuscation. Words mean nothing. Meaning means nothing. Nothing means nothing. Post-truth, postmodernism. So the government should be, the government should give coverage to leftist lies, is what she's saying. Yep. Quality said, is Blair White that you did a video about a while ago where you asked about getting dome from her? Probably. I would take a BJ from Blair White. I'm sorry.
Right?
So no, I didn't.
Yeah, you said there's certain
I
situations.
was
that you're going
acknowledging
to
what you
lie.
had said about people.
I'm not going downstairs, but we'd get a blowjob for her.
Lying to get
So
into
you
North
don't think that people should lie to get into North Korea to like help aid those people in like freeing themselves from like the extreme oppression that North Koreans experience? Like you think it's bad when like
Korea. Maybe,
humanitarian.
yeah.
Straw man.
Wouldn't be morally bad, but it would be wrong. Yeah, I mean, like,
Well,
you
why?
shouldn't
There
try
you
to.
go.
I mean, you're.
I mean, it's a question of the sovereignty of nations. I don't like North Korea.
Should America be like, hey, North Korea, just a heads up, these people,
I don't.
careful, they're not entering just to do tourism. They actually
I think if we
wanna
have
help your people.
treaties,
No, but nobody's asking for that on the war correspondence either. These people are incapable of engaging with what's actually being said. And then she literally accused him of not engaging with what's being said. So equality, look, man, stand on business. You can't say she is kind of cute, but fuck that. If you, I mean, do you like getting your dick sucked by people you're attracted to or not? I mean,
with nations we're not actively at war with, we should do our best to adhere to them. And so the question of international treaties pertaining to visas, the idea that the US government would permit people to lie on their passports, it's a weird thing to advocate for.
Sure.
Weird,
The issue is that, again, this is why
Like,
I
why
said,
lie on your passport? I don't understand.
why insist on having biology on your passport? Why not have
because it is we already went over the medicine thing. If you go to the hospital, they need to know you're male or female. They don't need to know if you're non-binary.
gender?
Because there are laws in certain nations.
Why not have
pertaining-
both?
Because it's a redundancy. It's meaningless.
It's not redundant.
So you
right?
put, I'm a male woman.
Well, Blair White.
What is a woman?
What is a woman? It is a performance.
What does that mean?
It means that you
So because this show is a performance, this show is a woman. A woman is a performance.
What?
You mean fucking Blair White? No. On, off, blind, seeing. No. I'm not putting my dick in a man's butt. But if he looks like her, then I mean, whatever.
What is a woman?
what is a
Okay, equality. So equality's admitting that he's attracted to Blair White, but said fuck that. And I call it bullshit. Said it's the knowledge of it actually being a fucking man. It's a man. In the Austin Powers voice, how was that? I mean, I hear you, but you know, sorry. Looks like a bitch.
English?
It's not redundant.
So you
right?
put, I'm a
Looks
male
like a bitch,
woman?
acts like a bitch,
Blair
sucks like a
White.
bitch.
What is a woman?
What is a woman? It is a performance.
What does that mean?
It means that you appear woman. It's like porn. What's porn? Well, you see it when you know it, right? If you look at it, that's porn.
No, I would define porn as people having sex on camera for the purposes of having sex on camera. That's porn.
That naked image, it's not porn.
Why can't liberals answer this question?
Because because do you want me to go why?
Because they're scared too?
No, because of we went into
woman
it
is an
before.
adult human female?
No, not at all. The issue is that it's Sorite's paradox.
I'm saying I'll do it with the lights on. I'm not afraid to admit that I think Blair White is cute. I'm if you want to call me gay for that, whatever. But
You know what Sorite's
what is that?
paradox is? Okay, I've got 1,000 grains of sand.
did she just 1,000?
Paradox. Do you know what
what
Sorite's
is that?
paradox is? Okay, I've got 1,000 grains.
I don't know why I found that so funny. One more time.
Is that it's Sorite's paradox? Do you know what
1,000?
Sorite's
So we Sylvester the Putty Tat.
What is that?
paradox is? Okay, I've got 1,000 grains of sand, and I say that's a heap of sand. Would you agree with me?
Oh, I know this. Yes, I use it all the time.
Okay.
How many grains of sand makes a heap?
Exactly, right? And the line there is hard to know,
I mean, to be fair, this was the Supreme Court line. So
right?
It's really not.
So Blair White is a
It's
man. Is a
And
man.
Blair White will tell you Blair White is a man.
Okay, that's fine for Blair White.
Blair White literally makes videos where
You want Blair White
I
to
will-
walk into male bathrooms.
no,
yeah, I'm with Tim on this. I don't think that I think it makes a lot more sense to go into the bathroom that you present as, and like it's gonna, you know, the like having trans people in bathrooms, in public bathroom, that there's going to be an issue. I think there's less issue with you know, a passing trans woman who's a male going into the female bathroom, because the overwhelming majority of people of any type that go into a bathroom are not there to do anything but use the bathroom. Let's not pretend that that's not the case. Obviously, males going into the female bathroom, regardless of how they present, does present an issue. But I think that if we're asking Blair White to go into male bathrooms and Buck Angel to go in female bathrooms, that doesn't really make practical sense to me, at least. Buckmaster, so if I roll around like a cutie pie and block my front door with my butt, does that mean I'm a wombat? Yes. Matthew said, I'm with you, bro. Blair is hot. If all dudes look like that, I would probably be gay. I mean, it's especially since I've never like met Blair in person. I've never talked to Blair in person. Like, it's just an abstraction that looks like a girl. I don't think it's that big of a deal to you know, to say that. Now, again, once you're actually doing things, I'm right there with you, equality, about the idea of knowing that it's a man affecting things. I told the story before about how the first restaurant I worked at, there were these two girls that were cousins, and me and the bartender were boys. And one of the cousins hit me up. I was like, hey, we would love to hang out at your place with you and Greg. That's actually his name. And so I invited them over, and I was hooking up with the one I liked. He was hooking up with the one I would have hooked up with both of them, but that's neither here nor there. But then, like, the one he was hooking up with, either she drank too much or I don't remember exactly what happened, but he was trying to get in on our action. And like, you like Akon and his best friend have double team girls before, and they seem to enjoyed it. So I was like, all right, you know, let's double team this bitch. but we were lying in my bed, and my leg just brushed his, and I felt his leg hair, and I was like, nope, 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 nope. I'm done. Can't do this. So, I don't know. CT said it gets dicey when the 50-year-old guy with a beard and mental health problems goes into the ladies' room. I have an issue. And so that is why I use the what you more closely present as. So if you, just because you are wearing a dress doesn't mean that you pass as a woman. So it's like the face value test. If you see a picture of somebody, the first thing you think, that's where they should go. Not if you're studying the jawline's this. No, just you see for a single second, a glance of a person, and you think, are they male or are they female? That's about them they should go into. Yeah, no. Funkmasters. Well, Funkmaster said, but in that guy's mind, he thinks he looks like a woman. Unfortunately. But that's why we need the objectivity. And that's why it is a difficult issue, because you're absolutely right that some of these very non-passing dudes, then you're like, I look so good. Not unrelated to the social contagion aspect, where by being trans, you automatically become beautiful and amazing and all that stuff. But that is why it is a dilemma. So actually, all right. Well, we got the answer already on our poll. I want to leave this until we're actually talking about it. It's about to come up. If you have not hit the poll, hit it right now. I'm about to edit and end it. The question: does having bigger breasts equal being more feminine? Yes or no? And 77% of you said no. Indeed. Shout out to definitely not Tukey. Welcome to the party. So I'm late to the bro with the cans of guy. No. We can justifiably fantasize about what's underneath that shirt. These are real. Real. Well, I don't know if they're real, but they're organic, at least in some sense. Ty Cobb said estrogen patches do not make man pretty. Nope. Wait, what was the are they fake? All right. Well, I meant they were some level of them are natural. What was the bathroom question? All right, we got to dive back in. I'm going to forget about this question.
He makes videos where
you want Blair White to walk into male bathrooms.
No.
Oh.
No.
Why not?
Well, my position on this is like Blair White walking into a men's room will create a weird social chaos, and I'm not really concerned about Blair.
What kind of social chaos did it make?
So for men, it's a bit different for women, right? And so the issue is not specifically about Blair White. It's about Buck Angel, a better example.
Sure.
Buck Angel walking into a women's room is going to...
All right, new poll. Which public bathroom should Blair White use?
Start a fight. And so
Why?
Because Buck Angel is a masculine, bicycle mustached, male-looking individual.
So Hulk Hogan with a vagina is essentially like more of a
should
woman.
be using the men's room. But literally.
Wake of Mine said that hairbrushing story sounds like an online confession. Catholic God says it needs more time to heal from the trauma of witnessing you and the daring dining. Hey, it took me a minute to recover from that, but I can promise you there was no God present there. Yeah, I mean,
Hulk Hogan with a vagina is essentially like more of a
should
woman.
be using the men's room. But literally, Hulk Hogan with a vagina is a literal woman.
Hulk Hogan with vagina should be using the men's room?
Yes.
Gotcha. Why?
Social order.
Because what's the social piece?
The social piece is that
you look like a man.
People make judgments based on appearance. And there have been instances, there was one story out of McDonald's where a lesbian female was pulled from the women's bathroom and the police kept calling her sir, despite the fact it was a literal biological female.
It's ma'am. So I'm ignoring equality over here. Yeah, I'm obviously utilitarian. You like a Looney Tunes reference? Well, I said I thought the definition of woman was large tapeworm with tits. Fair enough. Quality said you were trying to say she has the proper equipment for her physiology, even if the sweater puppies are augmented. About erudite here. Indeed. So far, we are 50-50 on the poll, guys. Get your responses in. Madness said, here's a poll question. Have you ever thought someone you see was one gender, but were totally duped and they were the opposite gender? I'll admit sometimes it's hard to tell. Scary. Yeah, I mean, I used to work with a trans dude, and like it came up pretty soon after I started working there. But it wasn't immediate, and like I just didn't know. And again, it's like it was just a coworker. It wasn't something in the context of is this a dude or is this a chick? That was just another person that worked at Petco. And so once I knew, like, oh, okay, I could see it. I'm like, you do kind of act like a little fucking girl sometimes. You know? Abe, so you can be free. You can be equal, but you can't be both. Well said. Quantic said madness no to the poll question. There's always been a slight tell for me. At most, I would say that something was off. How do you know? This is a direct question to you, Quantic. How do you know that this isn't the representative heuristic? How do you know that every time you saw a trans woman who did not pass, you said, oh, there's a trans woman, but you passed a bunch of trans women who did pass, and you didn't think of anything because, oh, that's just another woman. Remember the story about the, when I was a kid and I was going to the mall with my dad, and there was a, how do you not know who Blair White is? Blair White. Yeah, I was at the mall with my dad, and I saw a soldier go on by. He was in, his uniform. And I asked my dad, I was like, why do men always have to, or excuse me, why do people in the military always have to wear their uniform? He said, what are you talking about? They don't. I'm like, yeah, every time I see one, it's like, yeah, that's because you only notice that they're in the military when you see them in their uniform. That was Blair White. Welcome to the party, KFT. So yeah, I mean, how do you know? You've noticed the ones that you've noticed. How many have you not noticed? Funkmaster said Buck Angel could be Gary from Nerdrotic Stunt Double. Oh my god. I'm sure someone's already done this. Buck Angel, Gary Nerdrotic. We could do so. No, we don't have a side by side. But I mean, yeah, if he had hair, like spot on. All right, let's dive. Oh, we got you can say that again. I agree. It is weird either way, and that's why we have to go with the less weird one. KT, so is it gay if you have to do Buck Angel face to face? Yes. What we're talking, what I was saying before is that I would get dome from Blair White. I'm pretty sure Blair White still has a dick, if I'm not mistaken. But it looks like that. I mean, lip filler, hey. Honestly, maybe. But also, people don't usually notice something unless it's being focused on. Just because the non-padding teams woman passes my peripheral vision doesn't mean the left have a point. Yeah, I agree with you. But still, you can't, a non-passing trans woman. Just because a non-passing trans woman passes my peripheral vision doesn't mean the left has a point. I'm not saying they do. I'm saying that you don't necessarily have the justification to make this claim because you might be just falling a victim to the representative heuristic. And you notice all the trans women that are not passing or all the trans men that are not passing, but you don't notice any of the ones that are passing. Okay.
And there have been instances. There was one story out of McDonald's where a lesbian female was pulled from the women's bathroom and the police kept calling her sir, despite the fact it was a literal biological female, because of this controversy and conundrum. Yeah. So I don't have this staunch right conservative, make everybody use their biological gender space, because that will just be chaotic. That being said, there's no simple answer. Why? Because a male who was exposing himself to children, went into a spa in California, in San Francisco,
Yep.
exposed himself
remember
to
this.
women and children. And when a woman complained, they said, the assumption is this person is trans and we can't intervene. When in fact, it wasn't a trans person. It was a male who was exposing himself to children.
AGP.
Right.
So therein lies a much greter problem. On the surface, I think the simple answer is
Everybody knows what AGP means, right? Put one in the chat if you do not know what AGP refers to.
I don't see how any guy's going to appreciate Buck Angel walk into a ladies' room with their wife.
Exactly,
Never gonna
because
happen.
people make judgments on appearance.
Indeed.
And those
Right.
judgments on appearance that we make is that performance.
And then it's not
And so that aspect of, me leaning more towards, no, just go in the bathroom that you present as, that's part of the diversion, what's the word? Just the difference between the stereotype of a MAGA right-wing guy and who I am. And we all have different levels of degrees of separation from that stereotype. It's just a matter of who and why and where. So again, AGP is autogynephilia, the kink that you get turned on by as a man. You get turned on by other people viewing you as a woman. So lucky for them, they were like, "Oh my god, they're celebrating this stuff. They're celebrating this. I used to be a fucking freak. Now I can just go out and do whatever the fuck I want." Yep.
Exactly,
Never
because
gonna happen.
people make judgments on appearance.
indeed.
And those judgments on appearance that we make is that performance.
And that has nothing to do with your entitlement to government documents nor entering
I'm
foreign
not getting there
countries.
yet, right? If we make judgments based on appearance, you look at me and how do you know I'm a woman? Did you check my passport?
No.
Did you check my vagina?
Nope.
I could have a penis for all we know.
Probably not.
I could.
Probably not. I mean, you could, but probably not.
Why are you assuming I'm a woman?
Titties.
Well, you have a woman's body.
Right. Yes, I
So,
perform very woman.
Let's roll. Your skin. Men have thicker skin, and it's usually
He said, "Let's roll." Let's roll.
Very woman.
let's roll. Your skin. Men have thicker skin, and it's usually you notice the brow ridge, your facial features, the structure of your shoulders compared to your hips, the fact that you have breasts. These are all probably a woman.
Right. So if a woman gets breast implants, is she more or less a woman?
That's where the other poll came in. Does having bigger breasts mean being more feminine or more? I should have said more female, but that doesn't really make sense. But and so most of us are saying no. CT, since she uses the word performance too easily, it's not a performance, it's biology. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Absolutely.
All probably a woman.
Right. So if a woman gets breast implants, is she more or less a woman?
Neither.
Okay. But she appears more feminine, right?
No,
Yeah. Like
Okay,
a
I did.
super busty woman is obviously going to be more hyper fem.
Nope.
I don't agree.
This is
I
just
don't think your breast size makes you more or less of a woman.
This is why you don't ask the fish how to catch a fish.
I said fem at this point.
Yeah, I don't think femininity is reduced to like the size of a woman's breasts, because then morbidly obese women would be more feminine. That doesn't make sense.
Behave. Are you still here? I wanted you specifically, since you said that. I wanted you to hear this.
Well, it's more, again, it's performance, right? Like this is why if you search for porn and you look
Wait. Having breasts is a performance?
up like super like hyper feminine or hyper feminine like porn, you're going to get women with huge tits and a huge ass. This is obviously true.
Yeah,
Because
like
those are
so.
It's literal. I mean, I will. How do I say this? All things being the same, if I'm on P-Hub and there's two different videos and one of them has super gigantic F-size titties and the other one has, let's say a modest C cup, small C cup, like solid titties, but compared to the F, I am choosing to see every single time. Every single time. I bet she complains during sex. Probably. She said magnets aren't magnets because they perform like magnets. It's because of fucking magnetism. Too much logic, CT. Too much logic. All right? Speaking with a liberal woman here.
feminine like porn, you're going to get women with huge tits and a huge ass. This is obviously true.
Yeah,
Because
like,
those are
so-
feminine traits, right?
so-
Men don't typically have big tits and big asses.
So creating subcategories to define something doesn't change that woman and man are typically used to define adult human, male or female.
Yeah, I would say like 90% of the time. And the problem is that we have to legislate for like also the 10%. And so when it works 90%,
10%.
Sure, it's probably less than that.
Substantially less.
Sure, but we
more like 1%. And I mean, I get that, but I'm not saying that our laws should not apply to you because you're a minority of some type, but you are a minority, and we have to deal with everybody. So the majority is going to get the focus. Not that crazy.
we still have to legislate for it.
Yeah,
They're our citizens, right? We can't just be like, fuck you guys. You're not our problem.
Actually, the argument from trans people is it was better off before any of this was happening when trans people just used bathrooms and anyone noticing.
Yep.
But I agree
Representative heuristic.
that the trans
Legislating
movement,
for it actually caused more problems.
well, legislating for it in the way that the trans movement
I promise you. I promise you, I'll appreciate them.
Legislating for it actually caused more problems.
well, legislating for it in the way that the trans movement has legislated for it has caused problems.
Oh, CT, you got bro. Do you remember in the 2000s, low-rise jeans? I brought this up before, but it is a hill I'm willing to die on. The reason that with the over the last 25 years, where the fashion has recycled, and we've gone through all the things that were popular in the 80s and the 70s, and now it's coming back to the 90s. I mean, hey, maybe in the next 5 to 10 years, the low-rise jeans will come back, and I'll be wrong. But up until now, the reason that they skipped over that is because they're too fat. They are too fat. It used to be so common for women up into their 30s to be wearing low-rise jeans and show we used to talk about a midriff and, the little V, like that was sexy. But they can't do that anymore. So now they go and they have their pants up to here and show you the bottom of their butt cheeks. And that's supposed to be sexy. Nope. Bottom jeans, boots with the fur. Whole club is something on her. Good day. Good times. Good times.
Well, legislating for it in the way that the trans movement has legislated for it has caused problems,
and
right?
They were trying to get it removed from the DSM-5 as well. Which would
yes.
which would mean they can no longer get medical treatment or prescriptions for.
Yeah, look here. If you want to have somebody who's very critical of the trans group and thinks they're full of retards, you found the girl, right? Mm-hmm. I think there's lots of issues with trans.
Ooh, she said the R word.
Trans advocacy, but I'm not talking about that. I'm not talking about the group. I'm talking about the idea, which is what I'm wanting to gauge in. People make judgments.
What about
appearance?
body dysmorphic disorder?
What about it?
Should people have a right to get their hands chopped off?
It depends on if there's evidence that it benefits them.
Well.
Okay, you know what? That actually is a fair answer, but that is essentially saying no, because clearly there is no evidence that it benefits them, and clear evidence that it does not benefit them. So yet again, if it helped, it would definitely help.
What?
That's a non-answer. That's a non-answer. Shout out to Arjun. Welcome to the party. Very good to see you. Yeah, right. Exactly. And I mean, I did in the early days, I didn't hate the whole wearing leggings as pants thing. I was like, hey, I mean, I'm liking what I'm seeing. But it became a crutch, and so they were able to here. Let's see if I could do that. So it became a thing where if my waist is here. Right? And my little V, my happy trail is here. My V is right there. Dick is right off screen. Right? So that's what we're dealing with. And so it used to be the pants would be here and you could see the little V. But now, because I don't know why I'm so, but now they'll pull them up to here and shove their fat down and back to make it look like he's got these wide hips and these little stomach, when really the elastic is just crushing them like a corset. Low-rise jeans will be the sign that America is healthy again. RFK, where you at? Low-rise jeans make America healthy again.
Get their hands chopped off?
It depends on if there's evidence that it benefits them.
Well, not in them themselves, but as I said, they became a crutch.
Well, how would it benefit someone to cut their hand off?
Well, how would it benefit somebody to transition? The same.
It wouldn't. It wouldn't. That's why you shouldn't do it.
It doesn't.
It does.
It literally doesn't.
So does it though?
suicide ideation is suicidality is actually, to quote Chase Strangio, suicide attempts and suicide do not decrease from transition.
Chase Strangio is not a strong one to like the issue.
Who cares what they think? You just gotta be better at scoping the situation, bro.
Well, the ACLU's lawyer to the Supreme Court is the best example I'm going to come up with.
Sure, but you probably shouldn't use a lawyer when you're talking about like trans research.
A lawyer.
There you go. Shout out to Ty Cobb. Shout out to any woman who can fit into low-rise jeans. Oh man, I remember being in like middle school, early high school. Like the best thing would be if you sat behind a girl and she was bending over to do her work. You see a little thong popping out. Like, you're 13, 14. Yo, that is amazing.
I'm going to come up with.
Sure, but you probably shouldn't use a lawyer when you're talking about like trans research.
A lawyer who's trying to convince the Supreme Court is not the better example?
No, I would say researchers are, right? Like, we should go to the actual data.
The experts. Have you been?
I don't care what lawyers
desistance
making
rates
arguments.
are in the majority.
Desistance rates for under 18 are, right? The issue is that if you look at data, so
if you're over 18, do whatever you want. I don't care.
you want me to tell you about the data?
Sure.
Okay, so there's tons of research on specifically adults, and this was before it was super politicized because
There you go. Hey, my guy.
now most of the data that you look at for trans science between like 2018 to about 2024 is politicized on both sides. There's groups that are very anti-trans doing science and it's garbage, and there's sides that are very pro-trans and they do science and it's also garbage.
So which experts do we trust? Maybe we don't yet have enough information to change anything. And so we should conserve the values that we have until we have clear evidence as to why we should change them. Crazy thought.
And so the issue is that we have like almost
just like trans science is an oxymoron, just like gender affirming care.
2 decades now of science that we can't rely on. So we have to look back at like the earlier stuff and be really scrupulous about the methodology specifically. And so one of in the most methodologically sound studies, it's an RCT, it's longitudinal, it is a brilliant study. I believe it came out in 2003. I could be incorrect, but it looks at adults over time who transitioned or did not transition, right? And all
Put
of
it
the
away,
effects and
Nick.
sequelae.
Put it away.
And when you look at the adults who transitioned over the like 10-year period that they were studying them for, there was a 60% reduction in attempt rate. And by attempt rate, I mean medically diagnosed, confirmed at a hospital attempt rate.
So you mean all the people that didn't go to the hospital were not counted? Okay. How many of you, I just, in case anybody knows this offhand, what percentage of suicide attempts fail? It's a large number. Take a guess. Give me a number. A percentage. What percentage of suicide attempts fail? And why that's relevant to what she's saying here.
Rate. And by attempt rate, I mean medically diagnosed, confirmed at a hospital attempt rate, which is huge.
Yeah, but hold on. I don't care.
Why?
I'm talking about kids.
I'm talking about adults.
I know, but I don't care what adults do.
But when we're talking about passports and
Nope.
like traveling and all this sort of
that's
stuff.
government treaties and trying to get access to a foreign nation, which you have no right to attain.
Sure, that's one argument that you're making
care
for
what-
it. But
like I said,
when I'm
I
talking
think-
about trans people, I'm
Use the bathroom of which you most likely socially align visually.
yeah, by and large, we should also allow their passports to not like immediately out them as a group that a culture that we believe is hateful and we don't
But
agree
who's
with.
checking American?
What do you mean out them? You're the one trying to say that we should put gender on it. What do you mean? I don't get it. So 75% is a good guess, but no. 90% of suicide attempts fail. 90%. So you might think at face value, this goes towards her point that if there's all the, if most attempts fail and we're counting attempts and the number goes up, then that means that there's more attempts. But that doesn't necessarily follow, because if an attempt fails, then you don't necessarily end up in the hospital. Especially if you're doing something like, I don't know, you're drinking and you take pills, you try to pass out or something like that. Yeah, obviously if you shoot yourself in the head and it doesn't work, then you're gonna end up in the hospital. Obviously, if you slit your wrist down to the fucking elbow and it doesn't work, you're gonna end up in the hospital. But again, we're talking about mentally ill teenagers. I've got cutting scars on my wrist too. I was an emo kid. Like it's just, I'm not convinced.
out them as a group, that a culture that we believe is hateful and we don't agree
Who's
with.
checking American passports on the fly? Like, are you going to bars and being like,
When
"Let me see
you
your passport"?
go through TSA,
I mean, people
okay,
who
like-
don't, a lot of people don't have licenses, especially in urban areas where you may not need to drive. People don't often get licenses, and the passport is their maybe not their only, but their primary source of identification.
passports on the fly. Like, are you going to bars and being like, "Let
when
me see
you
your passport"?
go through TSA,
Okay. Like, is a TSA agent gonna like lynch a trans person going to Omaha?
not an American.
cares?
I'm talking about Iranians,
Why are you going to Iran?
because you have the liberty to do so.
Not if Iran says no.
Again, my issue isn't that Iran.
That's it. That's it. Iran says no, but you want them to say yes because, and so you're willing to lie to them. And then you might die anyway because it's a very dangerous thing to do. Again, I don't have the right to be in the NBA. I don't have the right to demand that they change the rules so that I can say, actually, I'm 7'3". Actually, I can dunk. It's such a simple concept. I don't understand how these people who are clearly well-read, clearly understand how to read science, clearly know some level of the story that they're telling themselves. It blows my mind that they're able to be smart enough to do that, but not smart enough to figure out reality. I don't know.
on can.
If you guys are enjoying the show, the party rages on 24/7 over in our Discord. The link is pinned to the top of the chat and is absolutely free to join 24/7. We're in there hanging out, having a great time. And guys, it is absolutely free. However, if you are a member of this channel here on YouTube, you can scroll right below that video and hit that join button. Starts at $2.99. There's a few different tiers, but $2.99 will get you in. It gets you members only live streams here on YouTube, all that other good stuff. But it opens up the full Discord server. So we've got the free chat that is open to anyone. Anybody can join and talk. But as you can see, that is just one of our channels. There's a bunch of different channels here, including our Disciple chat for members only, our Word of the Day watch party, where we're talking about all this stuff. And of course, we have the voice channel here, where we are hanging out at this moment. Shout out to everybody in the Discord server. Say hello and tell them to come and join. There you go, guys. Simple as that. See you there.
Or cannot.
And of course, remember, if you join for free tonight while the stream is going, then you will get a free pass to the after party, which is usually for members only. So it is members only, but if you join it today, like Whiskey Guzzler did, then you get free access to the members only after party. Come on through. Shout out to Dylan Soup. Welcome to the party. Very good to see you. He said this is her feminism framework and her theosophy. What does that mean?
Theosophy.
Any number of philosophies maintaining that a knowledge of a God may be achieved through spiritual ecstasy, direct intuition, or special individual relations, especially the movement founded in 1875 as the Theosophical Society by Helena Blavatsky. What? Which movement founded? What are the... It's not a religion. Did you refer to... I'm just gonna take a word for it. I'm not gonna spend all this time on this. All right. So guys, we are coming up on the 2.5 hour mark, and if you would like to keep the party raging, you know how to do it. There is a piece of this that Tim goes off on a amazing rant that we definitely have to see. But I hope we get there. We'll skip it. Anyway.
Not if Iran says no.
Again, my issue isn't that Iran can or cannot say no. My issue is the government, your government, outing you in a dangerous way for no other reason than petty jabs because trans people went too far with policy. I think that's bad politicking.
I think there's political ramifications internationally for us having false passports.
Again, if the government will create a way that you can basically allow trans people to have a passport that looks in the way that they are presenting so that they don't get in trouble in countries that will throw trans people off of buildings.
Still a lie. The only way to achieve what you are asking for is to get the other countries to change their culture to accept trans people. That is the only thing. Remember, you think about my dick? Are you thinking about my dick, Ty? I'm definitely thinking about that.
That looks in the way that they are presenting so that they don't get in trouble in countries that will throw trans people off of buildings. I think it's good for your government.
Why would you go to a country that they're going to throw you off a building?
Stupid.
So what do you mean? What is this question? Why would women...
She can't understand the question. Why would you go somewhere they're going to kill you?
And go to any country ever that they care about and do like work to like help the poor. I don't...
Because you might die.
No, because they want to. They have the liberty to do so.
Right. And
I want to be in the NBA.
And so this is why I asked, why would you do it? You gave an answer.
Liberty.
And my point is, sometimes you die, right?
The government shouldn't be outing you to kill you. I don't care if a trans person goes to Iran and then...
It's just... This is a disingenuous framing. As if the government is going to be like, hey, look, we got a trans over here. No, we're just using the same identifiable markers as everyone else. You just don't like it.
In the process of being in Iran, they die as a war correspondent. I care about your own government outing you and setting you up to be killed for no other reasons than petty jabs.
And I'm gonna say once again, the reason why I think young men are leaving the left is that this sounds like sophistry.
So again, let's talk about face validity. Do you know what face validity is?
Explain.
Okay, face validity is this process in science. So when we do science, we look for things. So like when we test whether or not I'm testing depression, there's validity measures that we apply to ensure that I'm capturing depression and not something else like anxiety, right? One of the ways that we can test for whether or not we're capturing a construct is called face validity. And all that means is it appears good. And the issue is that the world is so much more complex. Every scientist knows that face validity as a form of validity is garbage because...
So essentially, I see flowers and they're so pretty and I can't explain it, so it must be God. That's face validity.
I might write an emo measure to test how emo you are, but that doesn't mean that
I'm the most emo.
I'm tapping into the emo construct at all. Even though all the questions might sound good and I ask you a bunch about Green Day and all these sorts of things, and
Green Day is pop punk, not emo.
Ask how many black types of like makeups you have.
They're not emo.
Right. They might be goth, right?
You brought up this example. They might be goth. No, not even a little bit.
They might be.
They're pop punk.
There you go.
I told you. What did I tell you? Didn't I tell you? I told you. And when did I tell you? A long time ago. And when I
As remember, only 99 cents to keep the party raging.
Right. They might be goth, right? They might be.
They're pop punk.
There you go, right? They might be something else.
I call them cult punk now.
So this is why face validity.
Cult punk. I love it. She said, I'm for traveling the world, but you have to enter other countries with an open mind. Going to the Middle East with a political ideology is crazy. Even Dubai. There, women can't drive cars. Why support? I mean, to be fair, I don't think this is about supporting. I think it's about reporting, but point stands.
Pop punk.
There you go, right? They might be something else.
I call them cult punk now.
So this is why face validity is a really weak thinking system. And my problem with the right and what you said before with men is that you said it's easier to be on the right. And I would say that's a weak answer because
It's true.
as a human being, it's not better to take the easy path. You should take the right pathway.
No one said that.
So what she's saying,
validity is a really weak thinking system. And my problem with the right and what you said before with men is that you said it's easier to be on the right.
Right. So what she's saying is not untrue. But how she behaves is that because face validity is a weak level of evidence, then face validity cannot be trusted in any context, which is the pendulum going the other way. So yeah, if everything is just based on how it first appears to you, then you're going to be wrong a lot. But also, if it looks like a duck, quacks like a duck, walks like a duck, probably a duck.
And I would say that's a weak answer because
It's true.
as a human being, it's not better to take the easy path. You should take the right pathway.
No one said that's not you called my answer weak, which is nonsensical.
Right. So we can, even if you want to say that it is a weaker thing to go with the easier thing, and that is following Trump. But again, that's a non sequitur because we're not talking about should men leave the left. We're talking about why men already have and are continuing to leave the left. CT said, I feel bad for the right-wing guy that's just sitting there for the last hour. He's more patient than me, for sure. Yeah, it's confusing to me, the structure. Because, like, with the Adam Conover episode, it was one-on-one. But usually, there's two guests, and almost always, it's Tim versus one of the guests. I don't get it. I think... I mean, as much as I can understand wanting to jump into the conversation, I get that. But it's like, are you the moderator or are you in this debate? Is that guy even in this debate or what is he doing here? Shout out to Devon. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the party. So she didn't say it can't be trusted in any context. She just called it weak. This is correct and a very bad ideology. It's surface level understanding. Again, I completely agree with that. So what I was saying is that just because that is true doesn't mean that the face validity cannot be trusted in any context. So I am adding on to the notion. She is behaving as if it can't be trusted in any context, despite not saying that directly. She is taking the assertion that is face validity and saying because it is face validity, it is not true, or it is not, or rather, it is a weak answer, and that is not the case. Especially when we're not talking about oughts, we're not talking about what young men should do. We're talking about what young men are doing. Fighting ghosts.
Pathway.
No one said that's not a. You called my answer weak, which is nonsensical. It is. You agreed with me that it was easier to be on the right for a man.
It's not nonsensical for me to say taking the easier path isn't good.
Calling my answer weak is not saying.
I didn't say
right. He's not saying it's good to take the easy route. He's saying men are taking the easy route. And then she is saying he is giving a weak answer for correctly identifying how he correctly answered the question. And so if you want to say those young men are weak, okay, you can make that argument. But the answer that Tim gave was accurate. Ron says she's absolutely not saying, I know she's not saying it. Like I'm saying, she is behaving as if, because of the fact that it is a weak determinant, that it cannot be trusted in any context. I know she didn't say that. I'm interpreting her words. If she said that, then she would be, very clearly wrong. I think that I am being honest about what I think her position is. So it's going back. Okay, dude. This is going back to the, well, it didn't say technically I am in MS-13, so therefore we're not in MS-13. Like, okay, dude. I mean, I genuinely did not mean to hit that button, but I do think it is rather dumb to say that she's not even implying that taking things on face validity is bad. That is her argument. That is her argument. She's saying that is weak. That means bad. That's what she is saying. Hey, shout out again. Monk Master General said thank the Overlord for he alone allows us to have pretty flowers and pretty ladies to give them to. All of the beautiful things in the world are gifts from Morty, Lord of all things. Thank you so very, very much. And of course, out sponsoring yourself, guys. We are $10 away from the goal. $10. We can do it. Thank you so very, very much, sir. Let's dive right back in.
Sensical for me to say taking the easier path isn't good.
Calling my answer weak is not saying.
I didn't say your answer's weak. I said that men who take the easier pathway,
which is a non sequitur.
When you say it's easier, that the weak answer is in, like, essentially when men say it's just easier to be right. That's weak.
It's the weak path.
Sure.
Correct.
Yeah, I think if we dive into this, men don't want to live in a world of sophistry. They don't want to be told to say there are 5 lights through pain of penalty. So when it's easier to be on the right, it's more like if you're on the right and you go to someone and say, that you're gay, most people on the right, not all, are going to be like, I don't need to know that. I don't care.
How do you know what's
Yep, facts. Dylan said, somewhat off topic. The Dems hiring some random Bopo feminine? I don't know what that means. And a soy boy to attract men over from the right is hilarious. It's almost Capita like. This is their end game. What? What are you talking about? Devon said that was slimy. I didn't say she didn't say it's bad. I took issue with can't be trusted in any context, which was not implied or stated. Okay, we can agree to disagree. I think that it was implied. I think that's what she thinks. You can disagree with me, but it's not slimy for me to have a different opinion of you. This is precisely the issue we have with you fucking liberals. Because if I have a different opinion, I must be a bad person. I must be slimy to think something different. How dare? How dare I see someone say something and interpret it differently than you? How dare I? What a slimy piece of shit I am. You're right, Devon. I should get a spanking for thinking differently than you.
You're gay. Most people on the right, not all, are going to be like, I don't need to know that. I don't care.
You didn't say I was slimy? You didn't say that? I am telling you, I wholeheartedly believe that she thinks, despite not having stated it, that face validity is a bad thing. That's what I think. You can think I'm wrong, but fuck you if you're going to tell me that I'm being slimy. Bro, look, it's on the screen. It's on the screen. Don't tell me you didn't say the thing that's on the screen.
How do you know what's true?
Well, that's a good point. You don't.
Right. And so what I'm arguing is that
The only thing I know is that I know nothing.
Sure, but you know some things, right? And it's good to know that you know.
We believe some things.
Well, I'm an objective.
Believe nothing except that anything is possible.
Some things, right? And it's good to know that you know.
We believe some things.
Well, I'm an objectivist when it comes to, like, I'm a science realist, right? I believe that there
All right, maybe so, but then maybe we shouldn't be throwing out ad homs then, you know?
are things we can discover that are true and will stay true regardless of how people feel about them, right? I
But
think my
philosophically-
pencil will fall, and that's due to gravity because it's true, and it doesn't matter if I'm like, oh God, please don't do it. Oh shit, I lost again.
We
I use that all the time.
agree on that, but that's a less than 1/1,000,000th of reality. So arguing that we can understand something basic, like a question I like to ask people is, if I
Gravity's not basic, right? Gravity's sequelae of falling is basic, but we don't
Right.
even know what causes gravity.
right. So if I were to say,
Perhaps. I'll give you the benefit of the doubt. Maybe I'm confused. But if, you know, you're going to call me slimy, then don't get mad when I get frustrated and misunderstand your point. Speak to me like a respectful adult, and then I can understand what you're saying. Call me names and don't understand as well.
if I were to take this phone and whip it as hard as I could at that window, what would happen?
I don't know how thick your windows are, but it would at least smash your phone. It might smash your window.
That's a great answer, because some people say the window would break. I say, actually, you don't know that. The assumption is the window would break because typically hard object thrown at window breaks window. However, it could be a bulletproof window. So while there are certain things that we can agree on, like if I drop object, it falls because gravity is a thing, most things we assume or believe, but we don't know.
So why did I arrive at the right answer when you might have expected me not to?
I didn't know.
I don't think we want to call her anti-science. I think that's a bit of a stretch. I think the science she has is wrong, but she's not anti-science.
I didn't have an expectation of your right.
Sure, but why did I arrive at the correct answer of essentially saying, I don't know how thick your window is, but your phone would probably break at least?
Higher IQ?
Probably not, right?
No, I think
It's probably,
I don't understand where she's going with this.
for example, Adam Conover is probably not stupid, but I think he says lots of stupid shit. But
because he's trying to adhere to a liberal orthodoxy.
Because
A question
sure,
of ba-
yes,
question,
actually,
a question
yes, because partisanry.
I know you're not mad. I'm frustrated. Unless you were not calling me slimy, then I am, I think justifiably, not happy that you called me slimy when I'm just telling you my opinion. That's the issue. I get that you're not mad that you're throwing words around. When you call other people bad words, they're the ones that get upset.
orthodoxy.
Because
A question
sure,
of ba-
yes,
question,
actually,
a question
yes, because partisanry defaults your brain to bad.
How is it? I'm gonna. Hey, I gotta call it like it is. How is this anti-science? How is this anti-science? She's not claiming that not having male and female on the passports negates the category of them being male or female. She, in fact, is she's willing to say that, yes, because they are male and female, because if a male has F on their passport, that's a lie. She just wants to subvert the reality of that with the cultural expectation that we should be allowed to lie to other countries to get into the country.
Yes, because partisanry defaults your brain to bad thinking strategies. And what I care about, all I care about in my platform is good think. And face validity is not a valid way to determine whether a construct is true or not.
Okay, so now can I say never? Now can I say never? It's almost like I was right the whole time. Shout out to KFT. No peanut butter tonight. I mean, it's not made for dogs. I'm like, you don't get sick if you eat too much. But, of course, we get treats for every donation. Thank you so very, very much. Getting us closer to that swole goal, guys. I am so puny. And it's summer's coming. I'm not going to be able to wear a long sleeve shirt under my shirt when I'm at the restaurant. And these arms are puny. So I need your help. We are 42 or 42 out of $50, guys. That's it. $8. And I'm on the floor.
Face validity is not a valid way to determine whether a construct is true or not.
Ever? Or is that's the context when we say it's not, right?
Face validity is not a valid way to determine whether a construct is true or not, because it falls upon not a valid way I care about in my platform is good think. And face validity is not a valid way to determine whether a construct is true or not.
So now,
because
Devon, you're not listening to me. I am aware, just like Kilmar Abreu Garcia does not have any tattoos on him that say MS13. I get that. I am not claiming she stated that I think never. I am interpreting her words and giving you my opinion of my interpretation of what she thinks. I understand. That's when I said I understand she didn't say it and I'm interpreting it. It means I understand she didn't say it and I'm interpreting it. You gotta listen. Hey, shout out to Abe Jenkins with the $10. Thank you so very, very much. That is our Swole Goal Met, guys. That is our Swole Goal Met. Thank you so very, very much. So we now have 52 out of 50. But what we can do, I will add another 10 push-ups if we get the other, let's get to, if we get to 10, if we get $5 more, or 5 more super chats of any amount, we'll double it. Thank you so very, very much, guys. Let's dive right back in. But either way, Swole Goal Met. Very, very, very much appreciated. Thank you.
Validity is not a valid way to determine whether a construct is true or not, because it falls apart the moment you look at the complexities of the world.
Which is why I say when you go so hard on this passports out you, people don't buy it.
I don't care if I explain to them how blitzscaling works as a venture capitalist system. You might be like, that shouldn't work. I don't really care. It's really complicated. It's infinitely complicated.
But you sound like Adam Conover is my point.
What?
You sound like Adam Conover.
No, because I don't deny IQ. I don't deny science, right? I don't sound like Adam Conover in any way, other than we might align on trans stuff. No, the issue is I'm not engaging in science denial.
Right, let's try this. The issue of being able to travel to a foreign country is predicated upon the acceptance of that foreign country letting you in. It's their sovereignty. So internally, there really isn't an issue pertaining to your passport saying MF or whatever. Nope. I mean, unless you're trying to get a ladies' night discount, which is unconstitutional anyway, and they get sued.
Okay, that is an anti-scientific statement, but let's be fair. She made an anti-scientific statement. That doesn't make someone anti-science. let's not go overboard. She's saying a lot of stupid shit. Let's stick with the stupid shit she actually is saying instead of making up our own stupid shit.
Or whatever. I mean, unless you're trying to get a ladies' night discount, which is unconstitutional anyway, and they get sued a million times over for it. There's very rare circumstances other than the emotions of the individual where it matters, except in a medical function,
Sure.
where a doctor needs to know what kind of medicine to prescribe you based on your biology.
And how do you know that somebody's female?
Are you saying in the medical context?
Female, with the way that you would define female.
Chromosomes, organs, gametes.
I mean, we make assumptions on the surface for the most part, but I fully recognize for someone like Blair, I have no problem saying she and her because
Okay,
Blair
why?
Me neither.
Blair gives me respect,
Hey, yeah, you're a respectful person, and
Blair returns the respect.
In the same way that if you want to be called CT223 when that clearly is not a name, if you want to be called Abe Dingus, if you want to be called the King Nirvana, I will call you those things.
it would also be really fucking weird to say he, him, right?
No, not really. I mean, Blair has said that she is actually a he and a man, and I think Blair even called her boyfriend gay. And so I'm kind of like, I don't know. Blair's nice, respectful, entertains things logically, and asked me his preferred pronoun. I said, okay. We had a drag queen on the show, said I use she. I said, okay, I don't care, whatever.
Sure.
People who are disrespectful, I'll call all sorts of weird names.
Sure, I'm not asking
Oh,
about
sorry.
people who are like, yeah, I don't expect you to play the same social tit for tat.
But this is my point. Conservatives, like,
Who say so? Actually, one question. Sorry, if I can pause you. I don't know who Blair is.
Not an expert. How do you not know? Like, how are you in politics? In political punditry? Especially while the trans stuff is going on and you don't know who Blair White is? I don't believe her.
this is my point. Conservatives, like,
Who say so? Actually, one.
So again, just in case anybody didn't fully understand, I know that she is articulating that she doesn't know Blair White. I am interpreting that to be a lie, and I think she does know who Blair White is.
Question. Sorry, if I can pause you. I don't know who Blair is. Okay, I'm a random person plucked from the internet, from the world who's never seen the internet.
Oh, okay. She's giving a hypothetical.
Which pronouns would they get?
I was going to say, like, come on. How do you not know? Okay.
Person plucked from the internet, from the world who's.
So let's back that up fully. So okay, I got it wrong. She's not saying she doesn't know. She's giving a hypothetical if I didn't know.
Can pause you. I don't know who Blair is. Okay, I'm a random person plucked from the internet, from the world who's never seen the internet. Which pronouns would they guess Blair is?
she, her,
Why?
because Blair White looks female.
Right. And so that looks
Okay. Now try doing it as a man that's 5'4". Not the same thing.
female piece is something that I think is worth applying a word to, which we call gender.
Trans.
Gender. Right? Because that's
Wait, what was that exchange? What? And so yeah, again, I maybe you were in the same timing as me. We got that wrong. What the fuck just happened here though?
and so that looks female piece is something that I think is worth applying a word to, which we call gender.
Trans.
Gender.
Yeah, no, I like fair. Okay, I'm okay with you separating gender and sex as the expression of your identity, but it is still an expression in relation to your sex.
Right? Because that's the word that you can pick a different word, I suppose, but gender
think you
is
should
what
use a
we're
different
talking
word.
about when we say that somebody performs in such a way, right? The reason that you know that I'm a woman is because I perform like a woman in every single way.
No, but I can tell you're a woman from a picture of you where you're not doing anything except existing.
Even though it is possible, technically, that I'm a sneaky XY chromosome haver. So I even have a vagina, but I'm technically XY.
Well,
right?
there's androgen.
Is that a real thing? Is that a real thing? Oh my God. That. Hey, whatever floats your boat. Whatever floats your boat.
XY chromosome haver. So I even have a vagina, but I'm technically XY.
Well,
right?
there's
Nah. Nope. If you got something to say, fucking say it. If you got something to say it. You got a microphone right in front of your face. If you ain't got shit to say, then keep your mouth shut.
androgen. I forgot the actual thing is called androgen immunity. You
Yeah,
familiar with that?
Yeah.
Some people are born XY, but the testosterone never has no. They're immune to testosterone.
Yeah.
So they develop like females. I think the issue largely is just down to why does that matter if someone's ID says their biological sex on it?
Because say for somebody like
Feeling.
intersex. Well, intersex, how do you even
Well, intersex actually has the capability to change.
what?
If you're birth like
Yeah, I think they have to pick whenever they're like younger or something like that.
They just
oh,
You know what I'm gonna do, right? You know the only thing I can say right now, right? Well, you know what? I won't do that. I'll just say our Rumble friend is leaving. So equality and deference because vagina. You have a good night. Devon said, as much as I abhor culture wars, and I think no one on the left has a good argument for this thing, I'd be willing to have it with one of y'all because the trans stuff gets tiring and needs a nap. I mean, I feel like the only, like, I mean, I definitely agree, but I feel like it's a very simple thing that is being made into more unnecessarily. So there's the difference between biological, intersubjective, and social and metaphorical. But people try too hard to do the sex, gender distinction and all that. Yeah, I agree. We should just accept that there are two sexes, and that's how we organize everything. And if you want to change the usage of gender into just your personal expression, then we can do that. But that doesn't have anything to do with sex, and there's no reason to do that. So you need to give us a reason to do that.
What? If you're birth, like,
Yeah, I think they have to pick whenever they're like younger or something like that.
They just
there you
pick
go.
they just pick a sex.
There you go, CT.
birth, like,
Yeah, I think they have to pick whenever they're like younger or something like that.
They just
there you
pick
go.
they just pick a sex.
Yeah, like I think they have both, and the parents basically have to choose.
I'll tell you this. I will
Interesting.
grant all luxuries afforded
I don't think she caught that he was joking.
to anyone who is legitimately intersex. I have no issue with that. It's a minority of the population. I don't think we should legislate for the majority for a minority in that way. So by all means, let's say, sure, intersex makes up like 0.017% of the population, and let's try to accommodate them. It's unfortunate they ended up in that circumstance.
Sure. So, like, for example, the Algerian boxer Amane, right?
Mhm.
Everyone insisted that she was trans. Seems like there's no evidence that's come out. It seems likely that she might have some intersex stuff, her testosterone.
XY, I think.
Yeah, like she might be androgen resistant or something like that. But in all ways, she's like, she's Algerian, right? They've thought she was a female from birth, and Algeria is not exactly.
Yeah, so then maybe combat sports is not for you. Maybe combat sports is not for you. Just like basketball is not for me. Maybe if you're intersex, then especially women's boxing is not for you. I don't understand why that's such a hard thing. You do not qualify.
Gender open, right? When we looked at that situation, the right got really agitated because essentially gender was thrust in their face, and it's hard to solve, especially if you won't even.
We did have what was the breakdown? I wasn't surprised that you guys so I put up the poll: which public bathroom should Blair White use? And 42% said the women's room. So again, I feel like the issue itself, like who has the issue, it's not us. We just want you to just fucking stick to normal shit. It's the kids in the sports that's really the only thing. Stop trying to impede on women's sports. Stop trying to impede on children's development, and then we can put the whole thing to bed. You can be as trans, you can be whatever gender the fuck you want. Just leave women's sports and children out of it. CDs, I'm down for a trans sports league. Feel like it would be entertaining. Oh, sorry. There we go. Hard as fuck to bet on. Lots of wild cards. The problem is there's not enough trans athletes to do that. There's not enough trans athletes to make one league. And yet, the entirety of women's sports and civil rights needs to be litigated. Make it make sense.
Actually, gender was thrust in their face, and it's hard to solve, especially if you won't even. Well, they said it was a guy, but it isn't a guy, right? In any way, shape, or form. And in fact, insisting she with breasts is a guy.
She didn't have breasts. That was the issue.
I think that she has like some level. I think most XYs will have some level of mammary development because without testosterone, you often. This is why pedophiles who are on SSRIs often have mammary development. Mammary development is kind of default unless
I would watch that.
you have androgen to prevent it. I could be wrong, but that's my understanding.
I think you're right. That's why like dudes with steroids, when they stop producing testosterone after the fact, they end up growing
They'll get
boobs.
some boobies, right? And so she did have breasts. They were probably small. I wouldn't be surprised because
Bitch at Bob was his name.
sure, but like Asian women have small tits, and that doesn't mean that we're like that's a man now. It's a man. Otherwise, my argument that more tits equals more woman would be true.
Which it's not.
Issue largely just stems to we don't legislate for the absolute minority, and an intersex person upon discovery, it's like, well, we can't. If you don't fit into the category we've provided for the overwhelming majority, then maybe a secondary category or something would make a lot of sense, because if You know, if someone was born without feet, they're not going to be runners. We don't say like, we're going to give you robot legs so you can run. That was actually
Exactly. Fucking exactly. Maybe if you're born without feet, running is just not in the fucking cards for you. Maybe if you're born as a 5'4" male, the NBA is not in the cards for you. If you're born intersex, then fighting other people for a profession is just not in the cards for you. And that's not oppression. That's just reality.
actually the Oscar Pistorius debate, because he didn't have legs, and so they were letting him use these prosthetics that people argued gave an advantage. He argued didn't, and it was contentious.
Are you though?
And then he killed his girlfriend, I think, and got arrested for it.
The fair play guy, right? The like big question of fair play. Yeah, I mean, like, I think when it comes to
something I was trying to ask you
sports,
earlier was sort of that too. What he's kind of touching on is that, well, how can you say that, like, in this one, like right now, you're saying we should basically legislate for the minority, but then earlier
we always
saying,
legislate for the minority,
saying,
just to be clear.
but you're saying
Always.
well, we shouldn't be
By
listening
and large,
to
that's
these.
what like most judicial criminality.
Yeah, but you're saying earlier, well, we shouldn't be listening to these crazy people that are like on the extreme left, and we should be ignoring them, and we should be
sure.
Like, together.
Yeah, you should, like, for example, I guess I would say, I'm sorry that the left got so crazy. Wasn't really my doing. I've only been in this industry for 3 years. I've always fought them. I don't like them. Why are you treating me like I'm them? I'm not a crazy leftist. I'm a reasonable liberal, and we are a growing group, a vastly growing group, because a lot of people are being like,
In the eye, or in the world of the blind, the one-eyed man is king.
yeah, progressives are kind of stupid. Like, they're a little cringe. And I agree. I've been fighting them my entire life.
Hey, I mean, if they're looking for a super short dude, hit me up. But you know, I'm not gonna hold my breath on that one.
The issue is that I refuse that the alternative has to go, well, if, if it looks and feels that way.
Put a one in the chat if you think we're about to get a straw man.
I refuse that the alternative has to go, well, if it looks and feels that way, it is that way, except for when I don't want it to be that way. It's like, that's not.
Called it! So we established that we're talking about nuance with the bathroom issue. And 42% of the people even here think that Blair White should be using the women's bathroom to make it easier. And Tim is the one who brought that up. Then what are we talking about? What are we talking about?
If it looks and feels that way, it is that way, except for when I don't want it to be that way. It's like, that's not a satisfying answer.
But what we're talking about though is the minority. Like there are not tons of Blair Whites and
yeah, there's not.
Did you not just ask to come up here and have a conversation exactly like this? Oh, but when you do it, you're better than the rest of us.
A lot of
the other
trans
guy.
people.
I forget his name.
Fuck Angel.
Okay.
It looks like that. Yeah. That's why they're like a unique case. That's why everybody cites them, is because they are the minority.
Here's another issue. Let's move on from this. The policies that you've espoused outside of like the
Okay, real quick, because I do want to make sure we get to the part where I want to get to. Where the fuck did it go? Where the fuck did the transcript go? Bom, 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 bom. All right, so we'll just go here because. Oh, okay. Let's do. Give me 1 second. Give me 1 second. All right, I'm just gonna back up a little bit. We're to yeah. Okay. Hold on. I know what I'm doing here. Hold on. Stick with me. Stick with me. Stick with me. Okay, we're talking about U.S. soldiers in Ukraine. So we're switching up. We're switching up, but I want to get to this because Tim goes on a fucking crazy rant after being essentially called the Dave Smith of the Douglas Murray debate. So we're going to skip up ahead a little bit. They are talking about Ukraine and all that is going on there. We might have to back up a little bit, but we'll figure it out. We'll figure it out. Where are we at? So I said, I want to fuck everyone in the world. Yep. Good song. We also got Adidas. All day, I dream about sex. She just said hormone treatments on minors is child abuse, point blank. I mean, not necessarily point blank. Like if they actually have a deficiency, then they're fine. But to trans kids, yes. Hey, we got Lark Bark in the building. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the party. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We got Lee. Oh, no, an Indian. Where? An Indian? Oh, God. No, there can't be an Indian here. I don't smell anything. I don't smell anything. We also got Revan. I don't know what the rest of that is. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the party. The topic is, did the left abandon men or did the men abandon the left? Welcome, welcome, welcome. Never been. But hey, if you want to send me on a vacation, I am down. Yeah, like, you know, when the trolls come in, you don't necessarily have to welcome them. But anyway, moving on. So yeah, we were talking about being in Ukraine and American.
They're allowed to volunteer wherever they want.
Okay.
U.S. in the former rules under the
Wars, I think most people
was in Vietnam aiding what's the name of the
when I'm saying proxy wars,
so we're talking about proxy wars versus Cold War versus hot war, and in relevance to Ukraine. And again, I know you didn't say that. That's my interpretation of the way that you behave and say things.
I think most people, I'm at least referencing.
Seeing a pattern here. It's almost like words have subtext.
Middle East, right? That's typically the areas that we mean when we say Cold War proxy.
The reason why this is not a proxy war is that U.S. individuals under the guidance of Ukraine, under the guidance of U.S. Special Forces and U.S. Intel, are shooting at Russians directly. We're not a proxy with Russia. We have U.S. citizens shooting Russians. In the former proxy wars of the Cold War, like in North Korea and in Vietnam, U.S. troops were aiding the forces there to fight the other forces there. That's a proxy
U.S.
war.
troops not allowed to volunteer?
They're not U.S. troops. They're former veterans and contractors who volunteer.
Yeah, sure. Are U.S. citizens not allowed to volunteer with foreign militaries?
They're allowed to volunteer wherever they want.
Okay. Are they being funded directly by the American military? Like, is the American military paying these people to go?
You want to play? We can play a game of semantics.
It's not a game of semantics at a legal level, right?
We can play a game of semantics and say they are not directly funded by the American. This is what you're going to get from like the defense secretary. He's going to say no U.S. dollars are being spent to send these people to Ukraine. They are there of their own volition. And then what the truth is, but we do give the money to Ukraine and tell them to pay these guys.
So
they didn't say that you have to do this.
The volunteers who join the Ukraine foreign army or whatever,
they call the volunteer coalition, but the private military contractors.
Dang, be nice.
Sure, they go there and they probably get some money from the Ukrainian government for what they're doing,
which is American money funneled to the Ukrainian government.
Not just American money though, right? It's Ukrainian money, American money, and probably EU money and British money.
Mostly U.S.
money. Yeah, probably NATO money. I think would be the most comfortable way to say it.
Which is the U.S.
The issue is that are you saying that basically the U.S. should ban those American citizens from going?
No. I'm saying U.S.
We just shouldn't send them there.
U.S. should not have special forces on the ground, like the BBC reported in 2023.
So they should ban them from going.
U.S. special forces were ordered
to go.
If you're
an ex-Marine,
they're not just special forces. And you know what? Well, you want to go to Ukraine? Yeah, let's go to Ukraine.
No. U.S. special forces are active duty personnel ordered to go to Ukraine. That should not have happened. If you're a former military and you want to go to Uzbekistan, I don't care. If you want to go fight,
they were fighting front line.
Yeah, that's what happens when you throw at homonyms.
You on the ground, call it what you want.
You want to complain about not being talked about like adults, but you're the one that started acting like a child. Projection. You're an asshole. Why can't anybody be nice?
Well, what does...
No, and again, I know you didn't articulate that. That's an interpretation of your behavior.
That mean?
It means they're in control of the operations that are happening, and they're giving direction to the Ukrainians.
First of all, okay, you need to have evidence to support all these claims.
Is the BBC okay? You know, the BBC
Western Special Forces on the ground. They're on the ground. They're controlling the Ukrainian military operations.
Yep,
that's a pretty big leap.
That's what's happening.
You need evidence for that. Extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence.
To be fair, like I said in the philosophy,
so they already pulled up an article of this.
Of truth, we largely believe these things based on the reports that we get from the corporate press.
But Devon, that's not what I meant. Please.
We lie quite a bit.
So this is your evidence that not only they're on the ground,
this is just
but
one
they're
article
controlling the Ukrainian government, the Ukrainian military. Sorry.
You know what the challenge is, to be honest.
I'm I'm just saying you need extraordinary evidence for that claim. You could be right.
I can sit here.
You could be
I'll pull it
right.
up.
You have to find not just 1 or 2 articles saying somebody hearsay said this. You need to find dollars moved. You need to show that the U.S. is actively supporting this, even if it's under tongue in cheek, right? You need to show evidence that Ukrainian soldiers are being controlled by these individuals and that they're high up in the Ukrainian military government. If
y'all ready for this? Now, what she's doing here, again, I know she's not actually saying the words. I'm interpreting what she's saying and doing. What she's doing here is saying that Tim is not qualified to talk about this because he doesn't understand. That's her position right now.
If they're in charge of a platoon,
Saying basically, you just brought up an article and just believed what it said. That's basically not what she articulated, but what she's thinking, in my humble opinion. Is that better, Devon? Does it make more sense if I articulate it every single time that I'm giving my opinion, that it's my opinion? It's my opinion. In my humble opinion, just tack that onto everything that I say.
that's not really what we're talking about here, right? We're stretching the definitions of these things at this point.
My point is that U.S. Special
Projection.
Forces, active duty, are in Ukraine. They are doing what's called operational coordination. Here's the simple and way of describing it. The U.S. says, here's where their ships are, and here's some missiles. If you press that button, it'll blow it up.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's U.S. involvement in a war with Russia.
Yeah, they're
Okay.
doing that, but they have no control over
So
anything.
then
Again,
why hasn't
not
Russia
involved.
claimed that they've
They did.
violated?
Russia has been claiming since the beginning of the war they're at war with the U.S. and NATO and not Ukraine,
So why aren't they striking U.S. or NATO?
because that would expand the war beyond the borders of Ukraine.
What?
and
Because
Russia's
that
not
would
the-
start World War III. Why is Russia not starting World War III? Because nobody wants World War III. I mean, and again, I haven't heard that Vladimir Putin has articulated, I don't want World War III, but I think it's fair to assume that.
prepared to do that.
Right.
And because Russia won.
One which?
Russia has largely won the war as of right now.
I bet you do. I bet you do.
I largely just think, like, Trump's getting really pissed because Putin isn't willing
Wait,
to
so
stop.
they had
You just heard me open a can. If any sponsors would like to be the official drink of the Indian Jesus show, hit me up. Until then, you will never know what I'm drinking.
U.S. had approximately 14 special forces personnel in Ukraine stationed at the U.S. Embassy. Their roles included providing security for VIPs and assisting with oversight of U.S. equipment and
All right,
supplies
ready?
being sent to
Here we
Ukraine.
go. Here we go.
That's your evidence that they're controlling the Ukrainian.
No, that's
like,
one.
military.
You're gonna have to find more evidence than that. That's one article you pulled up, and not just hearsay. He said.
Well, hold on. I'm agnostic. You have to find the evidence.
Yeah.
I'm asking you for it. I don't.
Fair, but once you start to make the claim, so what she's saying is she does have a semi-fair claim. There is less of a burden of proof on her than on Tim. Tim is the one claiming that there are U.S. Special Forces on the front lines in Ukraine. So once you make that claim, the burden of proof is on Tim to prove that. So he brought up the evidence. He brought up an article or two. And she said, the claim that you're making is too big for 1 or 2 articles. Then she made a different claim using 1 article. Is that projection? Right? Is that projection or is that, we'll call it projection. It is significantly weaker than that. I do love some coconut water. You know what? Because I've been mixing it with my my Soda Stream, but that does sound good. Too expensive though. Revit said dual citizens shouldn't exist. For one, I think a restructure to voting eligibility is needed. Something that encourages political participation and duties to the community, to the people, however you say it. So like a service guarantees, like the right to vote type of thing. I can get behind that. I can get behind that. Well, shout out to Schlitz malt liquor. May one day you be drinking by Thai. Drinking, drunk, whatever.
Say he should.
Well, hold on. I'm agnostic. You have to find the evidence.
Oh, I didn't finish that. So yes, did I say that? Oh yeah, I did say that. Yeah. So she's agnostic on the claim that Tim made, but then she's now making a counterclaim that you are wrong. That in and of itself is a claim, and she's only using one source to make that claim.
Evidence.
Yeah.
I'm asking you for it. I don't have to find it. The only
and this
evidence
is
I
what
has weakens a lot of what you're saying because
No, you
they're at
don't.
the embassy, which they're allowed to be
No, you found
at,
one article.
and they're providing security for VIPs.
That's one article. That's your own logic being used right back at you. You understand that, right?
No, I'm agnostic to this.
You told
have
me.
the
Not anymore. Not when you say, look, here's the evidence that it's not happening. That's not agnosticism.
affirmative claim. You must prove.
Indeed. And
Right. And you just made a positive claim that it's not happening.
then you found one article that you thought asserted a truth and used that to make your point.
No, I
Which
said,
my
okay,
argument is the same argument you made. If you're going to make a claim that special forces are
crazy.
only at the embassy,
Okay.
you need more proof than just that
Tim,
article.
if I'm going to be good faith to just ask your questions and read out what I find, that doesn't mean that you can go, see, that proves that they were controlling the Ukraine military. No, it doesn't.
Then you can't point to whatever the fuck you just pointed to and say, look, it proves that they didn't.
All it proves is that there were security for VIPs and helping facilitate the arms into Ukraine.
No, that's what your source is evidence of, and nothing has been proven.
That doesn't
This is
show
why men are
anything that
leaving
you're
the
claiming.
left. Because you said
If you can engage in like
This is why men are leaving the left. I mean, it is that simple.
Ukraine, that doesn't
This is
show
why men are
anything that
leaving
you're
the left.
claiming.
Sign
because you
language.
said
If you
Shame, insults, guilt, and the need to be right.
you can engage in like good things. So one of like
okay,
the
so
most
let me
important
make my
things-
point. I'll make my
Okay.
point. I've been covering the Ukraine war since it started. I can tell you about I was physically in Ukraine when the conflict started.
Yeah, they're talking about. So we skipped ahead a little bit because Tim's about to go on a fire ass rant. They are talking about U.S. Special Forces being sent to Ukraine, and she's saying no, they weren't. He's saying yes, they are, and he's saying, or excuse me, she is saying you only have this one article, so that's not enough. That's where we're at. So he's saying, I think this thing is true. And she's saying, you're just taking one little thing and trusting it essentially dogmatically. It's about to go down.
I was there twice, and I got to witness the collapse of the statue. I got to go to the Statue of Lenin after it was toppled, and people were stealing things from it. And in covering this, I have tracked numerous stories from the beginning of the Euromaidan protest movement, which I was physically present, to the Burisma scandal, to physically being present in Kiev during the separatist conflicts.
What's the
in
Burisma
2017.
scandal?
And in all of this research, we have found there are U.S. volunteers, which is part, it's called a volunteer coalition. These are paid private military contractors, former U.S. military personnel, and there is operational coordination from U.S. Special Forces on the ground in various capacities. In saying all of that, you asked me for proof. To be fair, what I was going to say is it's very difficult in the span of 20 minutes to pull up 10 years of research. But if I were to start digging through those articles, which I would be happy to do, we're already 20 minutes past time, and it's going to be very difficult. You then said you can't pull up one article.
That's
and
not what I said.
You
That
said
is what, oh, you fucking bitch. Oh, you fucking cunt hair. That is literally what you said. Okay, fine. She said you can't pull up one or two articles. You duplicitous fucking.
it's going to be very difficult. You then said you can't pull up one article.
That's
and
not what I said.
you said you're going to need extraordinary claims, require extraordinary evidence.
Correct.
And if you're going to pull up this article, that's a he said, she said, it's not enough. And then you literally pulled up an article of a he said, she said,
Wait, that
to make a
was-
counterclaim.
Rules for thee, but not for me.
This is the
No.
sophistry of which I'm
No,
referring.
Hold on. Sorry.
Also here, Russia won. Here's the proof.
Okay. So
This Ukraine battle map, Russia owns the Donbass.
So let's just like break down. I don't love meta litigating the conversation, right? But what I said, so a really common thing.
I do. I think meta litigating, as she called it, talking about what we're talking about, is very important because when you get lost in the sauce, you need to back up and be like, "This is where we went wrong. Let's start going back here." So if you don't want to get into meta litigating, then it means you don't actually want to see the truth of what is actually going on.
Like breakdown. I don't love meta litigating the conversation, right? But what I said, so a really common thinking way to think, a way to purify and ensure that you're not thinking poorly about things is called extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence.
We're familiar.
Nothing wrong with those.
Okay. So what I'm saying is that article you cited, I found exactly what they were talking about. The
Mhm.
special forces that were on the ground.
Yep.
And I showed you this is what they were doing. They were at the
Yep.
embassy,
Mhm.
right? Securing VIPs, giving them security,
Indeed.
and helping facilitate missiles.
To which your
claim-
previous
hold
point,
on,
was,
hold on.
to which your previous point was, a single article is not enough to prove or disprove anything.
Correct. So
So
So your article is not enough to prove or disapprove anything.
citing the single article does not prove or disprove anything.
right. The issue that you have is you're in the affirmative position. I'm agnostic. You just have to have
Not anymore. Not anymore. You were agnostic until the point that you looked that up and said, nuh-uh. Now you are no longer agnostic. Now you are no longer agnostic. You are making a positive claim that this did not happen.
A burden of evidence to convince me that this is the case.
Indeed, which is not going to happen in half an hour with 10
Well,
years of research.
I would argue.
Except it is, though. Except it is, though. And shout out to all of the donations because we are here for it. Y'all ready? Y'all ready? Y'all ready? Y'all ready?
That if you have 10 years of research, you could probably succinctly like list out a fair bit of really strong evidence of at least dollars moving, and that front line, these embassy workers, for example, ever being front line, killing Russian soldiers, anything like that.
You want me to do a 40-minute treatise on the history of the Ukraine conflict? Because I'll do it. I love this subject. What's the Turkey pipeline? My favorite launching point.
All right, I'm going to speed this up because it's going to take a minute.
I don't know.
So in 2012, The Guardian reported that the U.S. had been working on a project to build a natural gas pipeline from Qatar through Syria, Turkey into Europe to offset the Russian Gazprom gas monopoly. Before I get this,
he sped it up because he didn't want anybody to look at the details. Slow it down as much as you want. I'm not claiming to be the expert. I am looking at Tim and saying, hey, he's cooking. He might be right. He might be wrong, but he's fucking firing.
Russia controls about a quarter of natural gas into Europe through Ukraine, which leads to high gas prices in Europe. Mm-hmm. They've tried offsetting this in numerous ways, but Russia basically controls it. So the U.S. went to Syria, the Assad regime, and said, we're going to build this pipeline.
He's married with a newborn, right?
It's going to provide Europe with cheaper energy. It's going to lower the cost across the board. Syria then conferred with Russia, their ally, who has a military base in Tartus. And Syria came back to the U.S. and said, we're not going to let you do it because it would be damaging to the economics of Russia.
Sure.
So the U.S.
Just one article. You can't use one article. Extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence, which I wholeheartedly agree with.
Was upset, obviously, but it got really bad when Russia, Syria, and Iran plotted to then build a rival pipeline from the exact same oil field through Iraq into Syria, Turkey, into Europe to strengthen their monopoly on energy. The U.S. got pissed. It's around this time that they said the Bashar al-Assad regime needs to go in their terrorists. And that's when we got Operation Timber. What was that one? Let me pull
Sycamore.
See, it's like, Timber Sycamore. Operation Timber Sycamore is when the U.S. started providing weapons and CIA training to various revolutionary. Let me just pull it up.
Essentially, yes, is at 1.2. But I don't care about the actual. The point here is that he's going on this rant. He's not stopping. He's not stopping to look things up. He's just rattling this off the top of his head. He's talking about what has happened in Ukraine. You can agree. You can disagree. That's not really the point. The point is he's rattling this off the top of his head in response to her saying that he was only using one article to make this claim.
Training to various rival.
We'll pull it down by one. But I want to get through this. So we where am I? Hold on. I'll do 1.5. But it doesn't. I don't really care about the actual content of what he's saying. It's the fact that he's able to do it.
Revolutionary. Let me just pull it up. Factions in Syria, ultimately, which ended up joining al-Nusra and ISIS. And that's how we ended up seeing U.S. weapons and training in the hands of ISIS expanding in the region, because the U.S. wanted to topple the Assad regime so we can build a pipeline. So where are we today? Well, the U.S. has other means of trying to get the prices down and control natural gas in Ukraine. That is through Burisma, an energy company in Ukraine, for which the founder was a man named Mykola Zlochevsky. Mm-hmm. The U.S. had a former CIA director of terrorism on the board, as well as the son of the sitting vice president, Hunter Biden, which seemed to make no sense, except when you realize it was a U.S.-aligned foreign influence operation to control the government of Ukraine, to put pressure on the land leases for which they could cause problems for Gazprom, which is Russia's ability to supply energy to Europe. So then we get the Burisma scandal. Viktor Shokin, the prosecutor in Ukraine, was currently investigating Mykola Zlochevsky, the founder of Burisma, for corruption. Joe Biden got an email. He got contacted by Devin Archer and Hunter Biden over their involvement in Burisma and the fact they're being investigated by a state prosecutor. Viktor Shokin signed a sworn affidavit that the only reason he was terminated was because Biden personally flew in and threatened to illegally withhold congressionally approved loan guarantees unless he was fired. And it had to do with Hunter Biden being on the board, who was getting $83,000 a month.
Lots of money. But real quick, he is such a godly man, though, I thought.
Potentially more. He was then fired from his position. Now, the fascinating thing is Mykola Zlochevsky, while he was under investigation for corruption, fled Ukraine. I believe he went to Monaco. At this time is around when Devin Archer, Hunter Biden are making contact with the State Department saying, we need help on this. Within a few days, Joe Biden flies out completely illegally, tells the president of Ukraine, fire your state prosecutor, or you're not getting the money. To which this person replied, I believe it was Poroshenko, you don't have the authority to do that. You can't do that. And he
Call the big guy, or no, call the president.
Call the president. See what he says. Son of a bitch.
We're going to get a good guy in there.
He got fired. And they put in someone good, is the quote.
That was it. We put in someone good.
Joe Biden said. However, this guy they put in.
Put one in the chat if you have not seen that video.
Drops the investigation into Zlochevsky, whose funds were frozen by London under corruption investigations, who then immediately returned to Ukraine. So this whole period, they're saying none of it's happening. It's never happening. And in fact, once the investigations were dropped because of Joe Biden's involvement, the guy who was accused of corruption returned back to his operations in this country.
So that was pretty good. Right? Oh, no, we're still going.
Where we currently are is following the failures of Western soft power to secure this in this energy conflict, of which there's a bit more. Russia wanted to build a trade federation, and they had a free trade agreement with Ukraine. Ukraine was also...
No. I'm talking about okay, real quick. It's 1 minute long.
I remember going over convincing our team or others to convincing that we should be providing for loan guarantees. And I went over, I guess, the 12th, 13th time to Kyiv, and I was supposed to announce that there was another $1 billion loan guarantee. And I had gotten a commitment from Poroshenko and from Yatsenyuk that they would take action against the state prosecutor, and they didn't. So they said they were walking out to press conference. I said, no, I said, we're not going to give you the $1 billion. They said, you have no authority. You're not the president. The president said. I said, call him. I said, I'm telling you, you're not getting $1 billion. I said, you're not getting the $1 billion. I'm going to be leaving here. I think it was, 6 hours? I said, I'm leaving in 6 hours. If the prosecutor's not fired, you're not getting the money. Well, son of a bitch. Got fired. And they put in place someone who was solid.
Solid. Someone who was solid. Not good, you liar, Tim. That's not what he said.
Following the failures of Western soft power to secure this in this energy conflict, of which there's a bit more, Russia wanted to build a trade federation, and they had a free trade agreement with Ukraine. Ukraine was also being offered up Schengen zone access and EU access if they chose to go with NATO in the West instead. A large portion of Ukraine split largely on the east to west, the Donbass, largely leaning towards Russia, wanted to join the EU because it would give access to Ukrainian citizens to Europe. And what did we see with Poland? When they entered the Schengen zone, Polish people immediately started moving to the UK and other countries where they can get higher standards of living. Same thing happened with Greece, which caused economic instability. So the West told Ukraine, we're not going to let you into the EU unless you reach a certain standard. So you end up getting Victoria Nuland. She flies down. She's heavily engaged in the politics of Ukraine, trying to convince people to be in Ukraine to support Western expansion and not the Russian Trade Federation.
It's impressive that, his notes are this. Oh, he's not reading notes.
Vladimir Putin said at the time to Ukraine, if you open up a trade agreement with Europe and a free trade agreement with us, it's going to mean cheap European products are going to flood into Russia and damage our economy. We can't allow that. What ends up happening? The Euromaidan movement ousts Viktor Yanukovych, stripping all Russian aligned interests from the country, and puts in power an administration that was more pro-West. And Vladimir Putin says, I'm not going to lose this soft power battle, even if I have to invade. The first thing they did was dispatch their troops from Sevastopol to claim Crimea, got a referendum. And they had their referendum, which I think is largely fake bullshit. They just walked outside and said, hey, look, everybody's Russian now. Crimea, however, had in the past voted for independence and were blocked illegally, I would argue, by the Ukrainian government in the 90s. This ends up with a separatist movement emerging in the East. Outrage, the president who was duly elected was removed in what people who are pro-Russia would call a coup. But at the time, they were saying an illicit removal of the president of Ukraine. Russia began supplying weapons and training to the Eastern separatist movements, which largely did not expand in any meaningful way. However,
I've been paying attention longer than that.
However, after Donald Trump lost in 2020 and Joe Biden came in.
That's the title of my walk away campaign video. Bernie Bro, atheist walks away, or after they sold Bernie out, I was done.
Western interests were reignited in Ukraine, and this pause was largely due to the fact that Donald Trump was uninterested in this direct involvement in Ukraine, much the way the Democratic administrations had been under Obama and with Hillary Clinton at the State Department. Once Joe Biden got in and started to re-up U.S. interests in the region, largely over getting cheap energy into Europe, Russia then decided to do a hard invasion. I think they were wrong to do it. I think they had lost the soft power battle. I think soft power is an appropriate means of force.
Let's make one.
In winning conflict. But I admit that soft power can often lead to hard conflict, but I'm not so stupid and naive to think that wars don't happen. Russia crossed the line militaristically. However, the U.S. then immediately intervened and started supplying, NATO in the West, started supplying Ukraine with weapons, which kind of shocked the Russians who thought they were going to win this relatively quickly, though they never said 3 days. That was actually, I think, someone on the BBC who said that. Russia has been now flooding the zone, and they've seized the entirety of the eastern region, for which their principal purpose in starting this war is not about seizing Ukraine. It is about controlling Sevastopol, where they have a $300 million or multi-billion-dollar military naval infrastructure, the home of the Black Sea Fleet, which is their access to the Mediterranean through the Bosphorus, and then ultimately into the Red Sea and the Gulf of Aden and the Arabian Sea, where what the United States derisively calls Russia a cold gas station. Russia needs access to the Black Sea to be able to sell oil and natural gas and other resources along the Mediterranean. And if they get cut off from the Black Sea, it's going to be massively damaging their economy. That's why they seized Crimea. Now, the important thing to understand is they didn't invade Crimea. They were already there in Sevastopol, where they have a naval base. They simply released the troops from this area to have a referendum. But the invasion of the eastern regions, which is Donetsk, Luhansk, Mariupol, Zaporizhia, etc., this is about securing a land bridge access to Crimea so they don't get cut off from their naval base. Now, some people have argued, yeah, but they could build a naval base anywhere else they have access in, what do they have? Hold on. Sochi, I think, is the name of the city. They have access to, Sochi. They could build a base there. Russia's not.
Yeah, but you stopped for a second, you moron.
Going to give up a military base to the West, to the EU. That's not going to happen. So they're going to do what they have to do to secure this region of the country. Now, we can look at a few other instances where I would argue that our involvement in Ukraine has been bad for us. That was Germany accused a Ukrainian national of bombing Nord Stream 2. And Ukraine is accused of engaging in actions like this to create public support for U.S. and Western involvement in this country. So, all in all, the U.S. should not be meddling in the foreign affairs of the Middle East and Eastern European nations for the purpose of securing cheaper gas and energy for NATO. The tangential reason, what they argue on the surface, is that there is a concern among the Western economic bloc that China is expanding too rapidly, and that in order to make sure that NATO can grow commensurately with China, so they don't become the dominant unipolar force, Europe is going to need access to cheaper energy and a larger labor force, which is why they've had the mass immigration movement, largely from sub-Saharan Africa, and it's why they want to get cheaper energy into Ukraine. If the argument is, as people have made, the U.S. should be involved in Ukraine because Russia is a nation who's violating the sovereignty of countries, that's fake. And that only works on people who've not done any research on the region or the conflict. And my final thought on this is what I know about this is massively limited compared to actual people doing intelligence and working in the region. But it is over the span of 15 years of actually actively being involved to a certain degree journalistically, as I have friends who've personally gone to Syria over the civil war, tracking this and many other stories related to the Qatar-Turkey pipeline, and have personally been to Ukraine at the start of the conflict, watching it happen and interviewing people in Ukraine on the ground, and even going to pro-Yanukovych rallies to learn what they were talking about. This does not mean in any way that what I'm saying is absolute truth. I don't know, but I certainly have more experience in the matter than most people who are pushing bullshit platitudes about the sovereignty of Ukraine.
Sure. Okay.
Dilly, mother fucking Dilly. And exactly as CT said, it doesn't necessarily have to be so comprehensive, but if there's an issue, and I'm not even necessarily applying this to Russia, Ukraine, because different people care about different things for different reasons. So whatever it is that you care about, whatever it is that you want to understand, have this ready to go. And again, it doesn't need to be, Tim does this all goddamn day. This is his job. The rest of us have other shit to do, and we do this in our spare time. So, it's not necessarily the same thing. But understanding what it is that we're doing here is very important. Biden and the Democrats, that was during Obama. I mean, it was just, that's it. That's it. That's it.
But I certainly have more experience in the matter than most people who are pushing bullshit platitudes about the sovereignty of Ukraine.
Sure. Okay. So I want to make sure I summarize you so that you tell me that I've heard you correctly. And obviously it won't be as long. So just tell me.
Okay. Steel man. Fair enough.
If my summary is reasonable and good faith. Basically, there was a major soft power struggle that started happening over natural gas energy, right? And Ukraine is a important nexus for this struggle. And essentially NATO wants to support Ukraine in keeping it NATO. And they want to make sure that they get pipelines through that area that goes to EU so that they have energy access. And
pipelines are there. They want governmental authority to control the prices that Russia is setting when they transport this energy.
Yeah, they want to compete with the Russian monopoly.
This is not competition.
Well, wouldn't Ukraine and Syria be owning it versus...
So the Qatar-Turkey pipeline is defunct. It's not going to happen.
Okay.
So the alternate method that the West has is if we can't offset the monopoly, we can control their access. That means we're going to militaristically, or I should say through subterfuge and soft power, restrict their ability to have access to this market.
Gotcha. Okay, so they are restricting the Russian monopoly on energy.
Attempting to.
Okay, through soft power.
Right. And then you also, and through Kinetic Force, Ukraine was accused by Germany, a Ukrainian national, at the behest of the government, of bombing the Nord Stream 2 pipeline to shut down Russia's delivering of natural gas into Europe.
Right. Okay. So,
that is the Ukrainians using a military force against NATO.
Right. So if that's
Allegedly.
true, allegedly, yeah. So if that's true, then the Ukraine is also potentially using kinetic.
So let's slow back down. I wanted it for the rant there. There we go. Yeah, I had that sped up. So, but because again, it wasn't about is everything that he's saying completely true and accurate. It's the fact that he is able to do this. And so if she was able to be like, wait, but you said this, that, but it's actually this, that, I would be equally impressed with her. But she didn't.
Force to try to interfere
against NATO
on the power situation. So essentially, you've got two big powers fighting over energy, which Russia has the monopoly on, and America is doing everything it can to weaken it and to reduce the control that Russia has over that power system. Is that correct? Does that feel like an accurate summation?
I would say
summation?
Russia is seeking to maintain its ability to trade in energy, as it is largely an energy exporter that's maintaining its economy.
Mm-hmm.
The U.S. is trying to control the prices they sell to Europe. Ukraine, in an effort to protect its sovereignty in the matter, has engaged in hostilities against NATO.
Gotcha. And so the Nord Stream is,
according to CBS News,
Ukrainian, but is it like a military?
Allegedly.
Gotcha. Okay, so it's not. No.
So we don't know for sure.
Okay, that's fine. And I'm not going to ding you super hard over that. So if I'm understanding,
it could be untrue, but
there's a soft power fight that happens, and basically Russia loses. Right? They get stripped, and Russia goes, "Fuck that shit," and then they turn into a hard power fight. Right? They don't just roll in, but they have lots of people in Crimea. They release the soldiers, they release the hounds, and they make a really big push for Kiev. Probably because if you control the capital, you control the country, you can have bigger say on what's going on. I'm assuming. I don't know what your reasoning is for Kiev, but essentially,
no, I don't think they.
Why'd they push for Kiev?
This is to be completely honest, like conflict opinion. I don't think they pushed for Kiev. I think that we saw the invasion from Belarus to the north as a pincer attack so they could split the military forces of the Western powers and then seize the Donbass. Because the military force they applied to the eastern land bridge into Crimea was substantially greater than they applied through Belarus in the north.
Sure. Okay. So essentially, soft power fight goes on. Russia.
This is a second person to be like, God damn. What did she? I mean, I'm not super familiar with her. What did she used to look like? Just search the thing to get the thing. The thing. So, I mean, that looks pretty similar. That's not better. What we got here? Two little girls over here. Hey, girl. Little chub in the face on this one. We got here. This was definitely taken in college. If I know anything about anything, this was taken when she was in college. She could work. She could do some squats, but I mean, I ain't mad at it.
Then they applied through Belarus in the north.
Sure. Okay. So essentially, soft power fight goes on. Russia loses, turns into a hard power fight, which you say Russia's wrong for doing that hard power piece. Okay. So
they crossed the line into the, I don't think criminal is the right word because we're dealing with international conflict and crisis, but they aggressed.
Right. So I would fully grant that U.S. has used lots of soft power in Ukraine based on what you're saying. Like, I'm not opposing that. What I was asking for is evidence that right now there is U.S. sanctioned soldiers that are.
I mean, show me a picture where she looks that different. I mean, she looks older, yeah, but
operating frontline, fighting, killing Russian soldiers, and controlling the Ukrainian military system to fight Russia directly. That we're in basically like a pseudo hard war.
Right. What I offered up was,
and also her age matters. How old is she? Destiny.gg. No age? What the fuck kind of website even is this? I don't know. Anybody know how? Wait, a bunch of you know what the fuck is good with her. How old is she? Yeah, right? Always willing to send the men to war. Shout out to DJ Isolated. Welcome to the party. Which one are you talking about? The chick or Tim? All right, welcome. Let's dive back in for a little bit. We're gonna hit the 3.5 hour mark and head to the after party.
to fight Russia directly, that we're in basically like a pseudo hard war.
Right. What I offered up
this-
was a treatise on the history of the Ukraine
Don't. That's not funny.
conflict. I didn't say I could have spent the last
Well, that's
20
that-
minutes Google searching articles.
Sure, it's just that's what I asked evidence for. So like I'm granting you all of this history. The issue is that that doesn't necessarily prove the extraordinary claim, which is that U.S. is controlling the military of Ukraine.
It's really not that an extraordinary of a claim. Like, if you understand how much money we've been sending them and why, and how long we've been entangled with them, it's really not an extraordinary claim at all. I certainly wouldn't accept it without any evidence, but multiple mainstream articles about it.
And telling it what to do and has all this stuff. I'm sure that it's important for training. I'm sure that it's important for facilitating.
Oh, Jesus. Oh, Jesus. What does Guamtech have for us? Where are we? Taking a little side quest here.
Sit down.
Side quest.
Sit down.
This was titled Tim Pool right now.
Get you, bitch.
That man, fucking, what is this? This needs to end up on my watch later.
To do and has all this stuff. I'm sure that it's important for training. I'm sure that it's important for facilitating in ammunitions. And I'm sure that it is motivated to have Ukraine not lose to Russian control.
He's hungry.
But that isn't the same thing as what you're claiming.
Was this the guy who was Well, we did go
I prefer brunettes. I'm a brunette type of dude.
over, and we do have to wrap soon, but let me see if this is the guy. Joseph Kofor Black, was that his name? When the CIA installs when CIA directors are installed as executive board members of foreign energy companies, we tend to ask ourselves, what is the CIA doing in Ukraine?
Yeah, I mean, when you know what you're talking about and you're confident in your position, then you don't have to be emotional. You don't have to have an emotional reaction to anything she's saying. I mean, she's not a fucking supermodel, but I'd fucking hate it. You can tell me that she shows up and you'd be like, nah, might be gay.
And when you have the son of the vice president on the board alongside a CIA director, and, going back to the history of this and U.S. involvement.
Wait, don't we know why the CIA would be involved in Ukraine? There's a soft power struggle
Blackwater.
for control, right?
Which, to my point, is right now, first, let me say, I'm not going to pull up every.
I mean, I agree with you, but we're not acknowledging that I find a woman attractive simping, right? I'm not going to her. I'm not giving her attention, money, resources, or anything. I'm just expressing to you guys that I like the way she looks. Is that simping to be attracted to women? I think yikes, bro. I think you're gay. If you think, yikes.
Article on what's called operational coordination in Ukraine. We can go back. There's also something to consider in that.
Like the CIA is probably in tons and tons of countries, right? Like not just Ukraine. The CIA is probably in Israel and most of our allies, right?
Israel.
Yeah, well, for sure in Israel. And it's probably also in a whole bunch of other countries that we're like allied with or like wanting to be allied with because it's important to have embassies and like locus of control, like military outposts in various locations because geography.
They were talking about the difference between soft war, hard war, cold war, hot war, all that stuff.
Matters in war.
Wow, look at this. In the wake of the Hunter Biden email controversy, the Wall Street Journal reported blacks role at the firm, Burisma, with a group of well-connected operatives in Washington to help persuade Ukrainian prosecutors to drop criminal cases against it. My point is, there is this game they're playing where Ukrainians and their international volunteer coalition, they call it, are the ones.
Oh, okay. So the only girls you fucked have fucked dudes that are cooler than you? Okay.
Ones engaged in the hostilities. These are not active duty U.S. personnel. Special forces are providing what's called operational coordination for the actions they take. The U.S. is providing the weapons. The intelligence and the weapons that were used to sink the flagship of Russia's Black Sea Fleet was the United States.
Yeah, we're sharing intelligence with them.
But having a U.S. military personnel look to a Ukrainian and say, if you press that button, my missile will be fired that will blow up a Russian vessel. It's silly to argue that's the Ukrainians who did it.
The issue is that if all of the Ukrainians are rallying behind it, they support the war, they don't want to like lose the certain lands like the Donbass and Crimea, and they're like have large tremendous support for what's going on. I'm sure that
I think one of the
largest
largest mass migrations in human history is the Ukrainian exodus.
I'm sure people are fleeing the war, but that doesn't mean that Ukrainians aren't also supporting the war, right? Like lots of times civilians flee war torn. Like lots of Afghanis left as well. That doesn't.
They're not having elections either. The president.
Yeah, aren't they in martial law right now?
Yeah, that's the difference between somebody who is like an average liberal leftist person versus it doesn't fit perfectly here. But when we talk about the difference between semantic obfuscation and linguistic creep, it's not a perfect. It doesn't fit perfectly. But she's more in the linguistic creep category, where she's listened to people like Emma Vigilant directly obfuscate language, and she's followed that. It's not perfect, but and yeah, that was over a decade ago.
You don't typically do elections during
Lincoln did.
Sure, but like did Churchill even do that?
I don't know if I don't know about.
I think elections ceased during World War II for most of the democracies involved, right? It's like super standard that democracies stop doing elections because if you're all of your
Is it though?
Wow.
Well, hold on. Let me finish this argument, right? If all of your money and your energy is invested towards fighting off what you view as an invading enemy, you don't have time to coordinate very expensive elections to go to the polls. This is why martial law got instated after Lincoln, because
Lincoln instated martial law, suspended habeas corpus, arrested politicians, and still had an election.
So do you think that Winston Churchill was stupid for not having an election?
Is it true that he didn't have an election?
I'm not sure, but if he didn't.
What kind of fucking... You want to talk about slimy? You think this fact is okay? Is that true? I don't know.
That'd be stupid?
It could go either way depending on the circumstances.
Yeah,
I don't
right.
know. You're talking about hypotheticals. You don't even know the facts around.
Sure. Well, the hypothetical is that most democracies, when they have martial law, don't have elections, which I believe is true. And
Except
that's...
us.
Huh?
Except us.
You guys have also suspended elections during war.
And didn't she bring up directly this? The reason that you would make those types of fashion choices is because you feel like that's appropriate because of the people around you.
Which ones?
I'm not sure. My understanding is that you guys have. You can look it up.
Maybe. We have gone way over, so we do got to go. But I don't know if we have. Abraham Lincoln famously held an election despite arresting a bunch of state legislators in Maryland, threatening to arrest the U.S. has never suspended or canceled an election due to war, even during Civil War, World War I, and World War II.
Is that because they ended before the next election?
Nope.
No, Lincoln had an election in the Civil War. They just excluded the rebelling states.
Sure.
So the argument from the Ukrainians is we can't hold elections in the occupied region, so we can't have an election. It's like, what?
We did.
They're not like us, I guess. Whatever. I'm just saying,
members, make sure you join the after party before the stream is over. You just heard me join it. I'm already there.
Let's just say this. Let's just say the U.S. has no boots on the ground at all, for the purpose of argument. The U.S. should not be involved in Ukraine in this conflict.
I just disagree with that.
So to what degree do you think the U.S. should be involved?
I think that it should be sending support, arms, helping the Ukrainians fight off the invasion.
And my final thought is, once again, why young men don't want to be on the left or associated with Democrats.
Is not because of the Ukrainian war.
I'm saying...
Not solely, but being sent to war on some bullshit when you have no skin in the game.
A component is largely 70, like I mentioned, 70% of millennial women voting in favor of war policies, advocating for escalating a conflict to which could result in World War III, to which Russia recently...
Without making 0 points? So you mean she did make 0 points? Or I mean, she did make points.
Threatened to Donald Trump after Trump called Putin crazy. And you got a bunch of young guys who are in Gen Z who are first in line to be sent.
I got to tell you, there's not a single exit poll where young men cite the draft anywhere near the top of the reasons why they switched.
No, I'm just saying.
Well, if they didn't say it directly, then it must not be true, right? Only what the government says verifies it as true.
I think it's a grain of sand making a heat.
the issue is that I'm really interested in the heap, which is what we came to talk about, right?
Right.
Which is that
And there's a few grains that are related to the fact that young men have to fight and die in wars and don't want to be involved in it. And they're
Exactly.
being told they should by women who don't.
Exactly. It's not the whole heap. It's some of the sand that makes up the heap.
it's not even by women in this case. Like the
No, I'm saying you specifically.
war of Ukraine. Well, first of all, I'm for women being drafted. So I'm a woman saying
My
I want
point
to swing
is-
equal. And second of all, I'm also saying
Gen Z-
this isn't women. In the case of
it
war
is.
hawking, well, it's men and women. It's governments, right?
Except the issue right now is that millennial women are 2-1 Democrat,
Mhm.
and Gen Z women are like
Why?
3-2.
Why?
Feminism.
Is it the draft?
I think social order. Like, why are women pro-war Ukraine? Like, it doesn't make any sense.
Because they were told to.
Most women probably don't have too many thoughts about Ukraine. By and large.
But you get all the Democrats in Congress waving Ukraine flags and inviting their president to our country and offering
How many fucking people have you seen on Twitter with Ukraine flag in their bio? Like,
them money. And then you go to like, we're in a rather mixed area, but if you go to like the Gap, it's the city they call the Gap. There's like Trump signs and then Ukraine flags. And I'm like, what the fuck are these people flying Ukraine flags for? Who are these people?
And a lot of them are Ukrainians.
And Democrats are skewing female on the younger generation.
did she really just say some of them are Ukraine? Like, shut the fuck up. You're just saying shit to say shit. Have you guys, has the men can do it, but women can't thing made it off of TikTok yet? We're going to end on this. May not have made it out of TikTok yet. That's hilarious. Maybe in a couple weeks. Maybe in a couple weeks. All right, let's go to TikTok. What am I looking for?
Have any of you guys ever thought
Hey, shout out to Jesse on fire. All right. And nope.
All right, fellas.
Like I said, this should eventually make it to the rest of the world. But for now, TikTok is the only way.
I figured out a trend that the boyfriends can do, but the girlfriends cannot. You ready? Watch this. Watch this. Ready?
What is it? I don't get it. Like standing like this?
Tell me when you figure it out.
I don't understand. I'm doing it. I'm doing exactly what you're doing. Baby, I'm hungry. I'm cooking dinner. Please, can you just tell me?
Thank you.
Only men can do this that women can't do. You ready?
Yeah, because what is it that y'all can do that we can't do? I feel like women do just about anything.
Nobody?
A
Nobody
woman
yet?
A woman can do anything, just about. Are you gonna tell us or what?
Nick got it! Nick got it, baby! Yo!
Bite your lip? Women can't bite their lip? Because I can do that. What? Act innocent? You what? You're not even freaking telling me anything. How am I supposed to freaking? I'm confused. I'm confused. Wipe your eye. Women can wipe their eyes. I can wipe.
All right, one more. This one goes on for another fucking
What is
minute.
it that?
All right, guys. Bambi doesn't know why she's here, but today I want to prove to her there's something men know how to do very well that women don't know how to do.
Okay.
Sped up to 1.3.
What is it I said? What's the game? This is why we're about to be late to eat. I'm starving.
Bitch, shut up! Shut up! Just shut up!
Why can't women do this? Okay.
One more. Okay, last one.
All right, everybody. I just want to get on here
Last
and
one.
show you guys something that I've seen that women can't do, especially my wife.
What? What? Is it a sport? Something basketball related? Say it then. What? You think I can't make a three-pointer? You think I can't dunk? Because you can't either. So is it something that you can do that I can't do?
Clearly.
That?
Ooh.
That?
I would like to see that. I'd like to see that.
Is it something related to sports? Wrestling? What?
Top comment. All the men knew from 3 seconds in what it was.
Be quiet for nothing?
Damn, ladies, we down 500
Breathe
points.
heavy? What?
And she kept on going.
Are you just trying to stare them down? Babe, I'm tired of standing here. You're wasting my time. I could be doing a bunch of other things right now.
It's literally
say
been
what
a
you
minute
gonna
and
say.
14 seconds.
You're just scared to say something because you know I can do it. Say it. So we just gonna stand here and look at the camera. What can you do that I can't do?
And she's still talking. She's like, you just gonna stand there and be
quiet.
quiet.
Sleep in.
The way she fought for her life at the end. What?
What? That was it? Sleep in? What?
How am I gonna show him I can sleep in?
Well, you're just standing there. That's about the only other thing you can do.
If you know, you know. That's what I'm saying.
You didn't even do nothing. You just sat there and be quiet. You try to say you can be quiet. Babe, oh, okay, no, before you sit on that camera, he do the most talking in this mirror.
Oh, I got him. All right, guys. I think we're going to call it there. It is time for the after party. If you are a member or if you joined the free Discord. Oh, I didn't pin the link. Fuck. Shout out to Nick. Now it's pinned. The pinned link. If you click that link, you get free access to the free chat channel forever. You also get free access to the entire thing tonight. We are in there. I see Glomtech and CT223 already, guys. Thank you. Oh, I almost forgot. It's time for the Swogo. Create. Come on. What the fuck? Shit. I forget what the fucking thing was. Shit. What was the fucking channel that I used? No. God damn it. Hold on. It was Creator Mix, I thought. Yeah, there we go. Okay. All right. Okay. It is time. Everybody pay yourselves. You're only doing 10. You can't do 10, do 5. If you can't do 5, do 3. Hey, yourself. For good luck. There we go, guys. Immediately, as of our next stream, then we are starting at 15. So as long as we keep bumping that number up, we're going to keep going. Who paid themselves? While we listen to that, let's shout out all of the donations. We got our boy Funkmaster General coming in hot with the $20. We had Abe Dinkus signing up as a disciple. Big shout out to all of the disciples. We had Abe again. Our boy KFT sending us a little bit from Morty. We had Funkmaster again, our sponsor of the stream, and putting us over the edge, our boy again, Abe Thank you so very, very much, guys. I really, really do appreciate it. Yeah, I don't see anybody paying themselves in the chat, but maybe they're doing a lot more than me. Either way, you can brag about it in the after party, guys. You still have time. You still have time to join and meet us. You saw what the after party was, just us hanging out. You can cam up or you don't have to. Either way, it is a great place to hang out and have interesting conversations, meet some cool people, and that is where we are headed. Once again, guys, thank you so very much for coming and hanging out. I know you could be doing anything in the world, yet you're hanging out here. Once again, this is Morty, and I have been your host, Lunch, aka the Indian Jesus, here to resurrect the second coming of common sense. Until next time, guys, we are out of here. Peace.